Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another Horrific Chat. Tonight we're doing something a little bit different. We're going to get topical with this episode. We're going to delve into the phenomenon of censorship of horror, to try and discuss the mindset behind it, and hopefully come up with some solutions for horror creators and horror fans alike. It's quite an in-depth and controversial topic, so obviously, rather than just having to put up with me on my own, I've got some backup. So thought I'd bring on a bunch of horror creators. We've got a whole mixed bag here, some returning, some brand new, and obviously, rather than me waffle on and try and do them justice, I thought I'd give everybody a chance to introduce themselves again. We'll start out with Lord Melbury, and then we'll just go anti-clockwise. I think you've been on this show once or twice now.
Oh, several times, isn't it? 3 or 4, isn't it? No,
I think quite a few times. You're becoming a regular, mate.
Yeah, I'm Steve. I'm an author. I write horror thrillers. Latest one's coming out on Tuesday. It's about a stalker. So I've been on there a few times now, discussing various things. So looking forward to this.
Excellent. And MJ, you've been on once or twice now?
Yeah, twice.
Yeah.
I'm MJ. I'm the author of The Suffering that came out earlier on this year. I'm just happy to be here talking about the censorship of horror, which is, so prevalent in the news at the moment. So good to be here.
I'm finally Damon, brand new to the show. Welcome. And you've actually taken some extremes, well, I wouldn't say extreme, but rather decent steps to kind of mitigate this. So do you want to tell everybody about your background and how you're involved?
So my name is Damon. I created a mobile app and website called Slasher. It is the social network for horror. It's really designed to bring the entire horror community closer together and give us opportunities that we can't find in the mainstream.
Excellent. Well, guys, like I said, thanks very much for coming on, because I think we've all felt it as creators or even fans of horror. We know it's there. And it's very easy to go, oh, yeah, just, life's not fair, blah, blah, blah. But there's something definitely going on. But it's not new. I think it's just we're seeing something in the modern scenario of censorship. But it's the same old game. I sort of look back over this, and the earliest example I can think of is actually Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus. Victor Frankenstein's statement, in fact, when he translated the movie, when Victor Frankenstein said, "I know what it's like to be God," everyone at the time lost their minds over it. He thinks he's this, but it's a classic case of people can't separate the character, thinking it's the creator and the actor. And are people still today worse that they can't understand nuance? Is that part of the problem here? Because this is a classic case of people not understanding the nuance. And Victor Frankenstein's not a hero in this story. Far from it. But we'll go anti-clockwise or clockwise. What do you want to do? Just to start us off, get people's thoughts.
Let's go with the slasher first.
All right, Damon. lead the charge. Straight on the spot there.
You should go since you're veterans here, but no, it's fine. So, in my opinion, I think the biggest problem is that people don't listen to one another. I really do think, like you said, there's a lot of nuance occurring, and people do really need to understand, okay, what was that about? Why? What were you thinking about? Instead of just knee-jerk reactions of, oh my God, that is terrible. There's got to be more. There's got to be context behind it. You can't just say something is bad if you don't understand that it's, what it is. Obviously certain things are just inherently bad, but when it comes to creative works, I think that there's a lot to be said for just understanding, why is it this way? Why did the person who created this make it this way, instead of just boycotting them or banning them or doing whatever you do? I think it really helps. And by having those conversations, we can gain understanding and knowledge and improve ourselves in general, over just, dealing off whatever, misunderstandings that there may be. That's my perspective.
Yeah, from MJ. Do you think it's always been a problem with a knee-jerk reaction? Do people not take that breath? Like, especially even today, we're seeing like so-called intelligent people, academics, act like absolute morons,
Yeah.
and the
Um,
so-called educated people of the time acting like morons, like just knee-jerk reaction. What's it about?
Well, I was having a look today at the sort of history of censorship and that 1930s kind of why it came in, and they brought in like the BBFC and all that kind of stuff to regulate it. And it was really because of like the Catholic Church coming in and saying you can't portray a policeman in a bad way, you can't portray, a teacher in a bad way, you can't portray, obviously people from the church in a bad way. And it all kind of falls into this idea of not giving people autonomy really to just see something and be able to make that decision of, well, just because this person is acting in this way, it doesn't mean that I'm going to want to do it. And I think there's a very strange sort of correlation between the idea of censorship and it being keeping people in line. And it just, I think it's crazy because I've never sort of seen a violent scene or a scene of someone harming an animal or something and just thought, oh my God, now I've seen it. I really want to do it.
I want to go do that. Yeah, that looks like fun.
This is it. So it's always been this kind of idea of, oh my goodness, if people see it, they will do it. And that's not what people do, really. I think, the issue is deeper. If you see something and you want to do it, then seeing a movie is not going to make you do it. It's inside you anyway. So I just think it's a very strange kind of get it twisted attitude that by hiding away all of this stuff, then people won't act in a certain way that they want to do. And this last few years particularly, it seems to have gone that way again with that thinking that, we need to just pretend that bad things don't happen and not show people this darker side of the world and of how people are, and then everything will be rosy. But that isn't the way it works. It's a bit of a strange attitude that seems to be coming back again. I think sort of like it eased up a little bit sort of after people were taking the mickey out of like Video Nasty, really coming down on it hard.
Yeah, funny enough, I'm going to bring that up as a point because that was a big thing in the 80s.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the 90s and sort of 2000s, people were just kind of like, oh, it's ridiculous to be so hard on censorship. But I think that attitude is kind of, people are forgetting that and it's coming back in again in a big way. So yeah, it just seems to be that cyclical nature of it comes in hard. People say this is absolutely ridiculous. And then people forget that it's absolutely ridiculous and it comes in hard again. And we seem to be in the middle of it coming in hard and censorship being a huge, huge issue at the moment.
Yeah, that's true. Steve?
Well, I mean, you talk about censorship, and people saying that, if you watch this film, it could make you murder someone or something like that. They thought about the same when video games started coming in, didn't they? A lot of the video games, they were saying, oh, let's put a classification on these video games. And I mean, horror film, if it's an 18 or an X, as I remember it, XX, I think it went to, didn't it, or triple X, and you might not watch it in the cinema, but like me, I Spit on Your Grave come out when I was 13, and it got banned in the cinemas. So what did I do? The couple I used to babysit for, the guy worked in RNAS Codrose, and he come home one night and says, got a good film for you tonight. I Spit on Your Grave. So I was still able to see it, even though it was banned. But it comes down to that old same thing, I think, where there shouldn't be, horror should not be classified as the worst thing, because it comes down to the same thing. If you don't like something on television, you've got thousands of other channels. If you go to the cinema and think there's a film there, horror film, it should be banned, why not just go to one of the other screens and watch Mickey Mouse or something like that? Yeah.
Do you think there's a mindset with the sort of people that do this? Because we've seen over the time, the more people are repressed, the more likely they're to act out anyway, and they act out in the worst possible ways. You know what I mean? Like we we're talking about there, the Catholic Church, look how they've conducted themselves. You know what I mean? They've become a part of themselves because of their behaviour, you know. Seeing again, like the people that preach the loudest tend to be the most vile, actual, in real life, nasty fuckers that you'll ever come across.
Yeah.
And how come people don't join the dots? Oh, we've seen this before. What is with people's long-term memory that it's so bad?
I was wondering about this today. It might be sort of a controversial take, but I was thinking about that connection with, you know, like people who really sort of are religious and think that people who are atheists are just horrendous. But I always say that I'd rather trust someone who is an atheist and chooses to be a good person than someone who is only being a good person because they're scared of, you know, what comes when they die, or because they're scared of a big man in the sky who might smite them down, kind of thing. Because I did wonder, is that attitude, is it that they're watching these things and some people would like to do them if they didn't have this kind of moral compass that was, you know, guided by this fear of something? Do they then assume that everybody else can't control themselves, or, you know, it is this thing? And I don't know, it's I think the
But is
two
it
kind of
purely
tie
is
together.
religion just the the mechanism? Because we're seeing it today from the other side. So the anti-religious ones are the ones actually currently censoring everything.
Yeah, that's true.
In the spirit of being virtuous and good, and that's what I want to get deeper into.
Yeah.
You know, it's easy. Is just the current vehicle of whatever takes power? No, I mean, it's the same person, I think, has that mindset that they obsess over what somebody 3 streets away does and don't worry about their own house.
Yeah.
That's what I want to kind of get into. What is it about that mindset? I'm sure you've talked to those sort of people. You've encountered them in the real world. Can you see a pattern about their behavior that comes out that just explains why they have that compulsion? Because it is a compulsion to do it.
If you remember, in the 70s, we had old Mary Whitehouse. Do you remember Mary Whitehouse?
Oh, yes, she was a lovely person.
She moaned about everything, you know, from cartoons right through to horror films. But why? You know, again, it comes back to the old thing. Why watch it in the first place if you know it's going to be something that you're not going to like? You know, why would you watch a video nasty if you know that you don't like video nasties, as they were in the 70s, as you know? But it's people like that. I think a lot of them are like they got nothing better to do with their lives than you know, moan about things that they wouldn't normally moan about if they were just sensible people who saw sense, really.
Given?
I think people tend to forget that it's better to have a choice and refuse the thing that they don't like than to not have the choice. Because it really kind of, that can come full circle and bite them in the ass. Because if you're talking to somebody who is absolutely dead set against, you know, horror movies should be banned. Okay, what happens when people start to not like the thing that they care about? You know, then, you know, the shoe is on the other foot, right? Now they're coming after the things that you're interested in, and now you've got a problem because you couldn't leave other people alone to do things that weren't harming anybody. Now, look, if they're harming people, I get it, 100%. But if it's a matter of choosing, you know, do I read this horror book, or do I read this self-help book, or do I read this religious book, or do I read this political book, read this music book, you know, or watch the movies or whatever? People forget that by saying that you can't do something just means that somebody else will have just as much capability of saying that they can't do the thing that they want to do. And I think that's the problem. They have to get their heads out of their asses and realize that it can come full circle. So everybody just, if it's not harming everybody, leave it alone. Because then we're setting a precedent for, who's to say what you can and can't. That kind of goes against all the things that I think all of us have been able to enjoy for, our lives. I think it's important to remember, you don't want somebody coming for the things that you like, go after the ones that they do, as long as it's not.
So we agree it's a compulsion of the censor. Well, maybe initially some people might think it's with good intentions, but the sort of people that, really engage in censorship, it's just for the sake of it, and they can't stop, because once they remove the thing that they believe to be harmful, they're looking for the next thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like a game. Once you get all those pellets, you just keep going until they're gone. And then what? I think you're right. These people that are just doing, because what else have they got to do? Maybe their own backyard is a little bit too littered with things that shouldn't be. And instead of addressing that, they've got to address everybody else's things because it's just too difficult to deal with. That's a problem. That's definitely a problem. And another part of this is, I think so many of us have seen what negative reinforcement does. Negative reinforcement is like the majority of how societies work, how religion works. It needs to be changed to positive reinforcement, because then I think instead of people being afraid to act badly, they'll feel good to act positively. That's another thing that is just ingrained in people. And I do think that it can be stifling people in that way, stifling their growth in various ways, whether it's mental, emotional, or anything else. It's going to be a positive reinforcement rather than negative, because instead of, these people are just running away instead of running towards. And running towards in a positive way is much better than trying to deal with things because they're concerned about negative repercussions. Do things because it's the right thing to do, not because you're afraid of the wrong.
Yeah, I'm going to do something really horrendous and disgusting right now, and I'm going to quote Taylor Swift because unfortunately I've got a van radio and her song, latest one's been constantly going over. But she's got one line in the song. It's, "I'll stare directly at the sun, but never look in the mirror." It's always good voting for the anti-heroes. It's about narcissism. I disguise my narcissism with altruism, sort of thing. That's the theme of the song. But that whole thing, yes, let's go macro, where maybe looking at the micro and like right in your own doorstep or in when you look in the mirror in the morning, just, okay, who am I today? Or what's going wrong? Why am I dissatisfied? But this is as though from the artist, it's been through the lens of religion, but this is just a fundamental human condition, this need to just stamp on others, or I don't like this, you can't have it because it's something I don't like. And you even see it within horror. If you don't like this movie, you're not a horror fan. Or if you do like this movie, you're not a horror fan. So there's actually internal censorship within the genre, which is always anything even slightly niche, I think, is more, I don't know, more controlling.
Yeah, that gatekeeping kind of.
Yeah, there's a lot of gatekeeping,
situation.
which I think is absolutely ridiculous.
There can be some sort of worry between horror fans as well. Like, I always go on about Hereditary. I laughed all the way through it. But one of my friends absolutely adored the film, and he couldn't understand why I thought it was funny. And as Colin knows, when the body floats up to the treehouse at the end, I was just in fits of laughter.
I was off the seat. I just like done.
So I think that even between horror films, there's a little bit of not censorship, but
well, there is, because these people will go after you. Like will
Oh,
actually jump on you in comments, and that's how you lose a fan. That's how you get people afraid to speak.
Well, because he said to me, "Oh, I ain't coming to the cinema with you again," because I was laughing, and I thought, well, I thought the film was funny, and yes, it was a horror film, but perhaps it wasn't supposed to be a comedy horror film. But
how many of those are unintentional? It's like I was talking about the latest film I watched at the cinema, Insidious, The Red Door, and that vomiting scene. I was buckled. Like I was in stitches, and the whole cinema was silent. Oh, everyone's going, oh, and I'm just like, because my brain's broken. We're watching so many horror movies. It's just that's the way you end up, because you've seen that scene so many times played out in a comedy, and it just looked pure comedy the way they've done it. So, and that's it. But with this sort of culture, that's enough to get me kicked out of a cinema and banned and told I'm not a horror fan and blah blah blah. And you're like, where is this mindset? It's mental.
Do you think it's because, like, since social media made it so easy for people to just blur their opinion everywhere, and then they get so used to saying their own opinion to everybody that they forget that other people are allowed their opinions as well, and sort of like I don't know, it's like people are
there's always so brave hiding behind an avatar as well.
And they won't allow anyone to kind of say, well, no, actually I think this, and I don't know, it gets it's just you sat behind your screen and nobody else is allowed to have a different opinion. It sort of becomes a bit of a habit for them, I think, where they just can't stand to have anyone say anything against it, and that's how they get kind of a lot of self-worth and kind of feel good, don't they, like going and sort of attacking people from behind the screen, like you say. And so maybe that's a lot of where it comes from.
We'll actually see that in your app, Damon. A lot of horror fans, and you see a lot of those threads, and they just go absolutely mental, where there's absolutely no reason for it to be. So there's external censorship, but the internal censorship as well. What is it that drives people to go that like borderline insanity over a movie or a book? Like it's not a life-changing spiritual event. I don't believe, I can really enjoy something. I can have a laugh at it and say, that's bloody really great, and I'll watch it 10 times, no bother. Or I'll watch something once and be like, no. But these people are almost looking for an out-of-body experience with something as shallow, let's say, as a movie. And I'm a movie fan.
I think there's a few things to say, right? First being like, what horror is to a lot, and it's therapeutic.
You're breaking up a wee bit, buddy.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's better. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we need to keep in sight one thing that's important, and that's that for a lot of us, horror is therapeutic, and I guess depending on how much somebody needs that, maybe that's how much they'll defend it. I don't know really, because personally, I feel like you. I think it's kind of silly to force an opinion on people, because look, at the end of the day, it's art, and any kind of creative medium is subjective, right? The whole idea is to reach people who it resonates with, or to make anybody feel anything, right? So at the end of the day, art has done its job. It's made people feel something. But I think it's really how people resonate, how it resonates with people, that it kind of dictates how they react. Maybe the person who is really, really gung-ho about this movie is the best thing since sliced bread, maybe they really just need, and I'm not saying it's right, because I don't think it is. I think it's, it's not good to stifle other people's opinions.
But it's good to understand. That's what I mean. It's not right. Let's get out of that whole thing. Oh, but once again, that's the type of conversation that we don't want. Oh, I like this, so you're a terrible bad person because you didn't like it, or vice versa. This is what we want to get away from, because that's not good. And it's with enough people outside the genre pushing in, maybe we need to take a step back from within the genre as well, because that's where it's not a good place to go.
Yeah. I mean, I think the majority of people, as long as nobody's forcing their opinion on anybody else, they're cool with other people's opinions. It's when you find those people who really do start to like MJ said, like start to gatekeep it, that people get defensive. And one of the things that is sort of built into slasher is respect for one another. People have to have respect for one another, or they're going to be dismissed. And I find that a lot of people do have respect for one another when they realize, look, this is how it works. Because I think a lot of the other platforms don't care, because they want the ad dollars, and that's all they care about. So the more people who are on, the longer they're on, the more you're feeding them. I'm feeding the community. I'm not filling anybody's pocket. So it really comes down to, what's the goal? If the goal is to have a good, civil, reasonable interaction with other people, then terrific. Let's do it all day long. But if nobody cares about what those interactions are like, then what's the end game?
Yeah,
Just,
it's like my
I've
co-host Cameron. We have ding dongs all the time over movies.
Mm.
The one I really love, he doesn't. It's like, what I mean, the conversation goes a bit, but we're still best buddies. You know what I mean? And it's just putting your case forward. But at the end of the day, it's a bloody movie, or it's a book, or it's a piece of artwork.
Yeah.
And if it was that straightforward, there would be one book, one movie, one piece of art, and that's all everybody would need in the planet.
Yeah, right. I agree. No variety, no intellectual stimulation there. There's no growth. There's nothing. It's a very bland life to have something like that, like you said.
Is there a way for people to self-regulate, to understand when they're maybe going too far in that territory? I'll just throw it out to everybody, obviously. Is there a way? Like, I'm always conscious when I'm on forums. Like 9 times out of 10, I won't take part if I see the conversation going a certain way, because I don't want to be part of that. I always try to state, okay, this is why I like something. That's a thing I was challenging when I'm giving reviews. It's important to say why you like something, or as much as why you don't like something. But is there a way to self-regulate, to say, I'm going too far, I'm in that territory, put the brakes on, have a look? People are obviously afraid to look inside, but even at a superficial level, is there a few checks and balances we can maybe suggest to people when they're commenting or talking about certain things?
Well, I was thinking it's nice to be passionate about something and to
absolutely
really love something.
Love passion.
And so I think it's hard because you really want people to be passionate about horror and about the films and about the things that they're like. But unfortunately, it seems to be that passion kind of makes it so that they can't take anyone saying something negative about it. And like you say, Damon, a lot of the time it is, something so personal when you connect with a horror movie or, a piece of, anyone's creativity that's kind of horror based. It can touch people really deeply and just affect a part of them that is raw or needs to fill a bit of a void, and so when people do say, I think this is terrible, I think this is rubbish, why the hell would you like that, what kind of a person likes that, then it really does spark something that is kind of a primal defense of this thing that is their passion.
Once again, is that the opening salvo then that kicks it off? I've seen both sides. I've seen somebody trash something, go, that's terrible, blah, blah, blah. But I've also seen somebody like, it's a particular American term I absolutely hate, when somebody goes, blah, 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 I really like this, fight me.
Yeah.
And you're like, mate, if you were standing face to face, you wouldn't be saying that, trust me.
No.
Because I'd oblige. I've done quite a bit in my 20s.
But it's trendy to just be like divisive about stuff now. It's like people will go on the internet just to pick fights. So you don't actually know that you're talking to someone who does actually have an opinion about the thing either. It's like people just want to start fights sometimes, don't they? So like you say, it's about how can you regulate yourself, where you can just take a step back and say, actually, I don't need to waste my time on this. I have the confidence to know that I like this thing for a reason. So you can take your opinion and go elsewhere. And I think that people, like, they don't quite, know how to do that sometimes. I think it's really hard for quite a lot of people to
So
actually...
can we come up with a few tips? Just off this, but yeah, sorry, I'm making you work.
No, it's all right.
Can we come up with a few tips? Okay, first of all, how do we recognize it's a purely inflammatory conversation? It's not actually about the movie or the book or the piece of art. Is there a way to recognize that straight away, that somebody's just stirring the pot? And the best way to deal with that is obviously not giving them what they want.
Yeah.
So, do you want to start with Steve, your lordship?
Well,
let's hear some of the upper class.
You always get, if you think social media, you put something on social media, you'll always get the trolls who say something just to get a reaction.
But can we recognize it instantly? So let's put this in perspective. Somebody makes a post.
Yeah.
How do we recognize that it's meant to be inflammatory and all I want is the fight and not to talk about it?
I think it's the way they put it, the terminology that they use. Because a true horror fan would say it in a certain way, whereas a troll would just try and instantly go into you to try and rile you up. So I think possibly it's the way that it's said. If you were, say, online with a true horror fan and you said, I don't know.
Well, that's what I mean. I want examples, because it's all right to talk.
Saw Hereditary last night. I laughed all the way through it, and you could say, well, I saw it. I thought it was all right. And I could say, well, all right. What did you like about it? And it would just be like a conversation like we're having here.
Yeah.
Whereas a non-true horror fan would say, oh, my bloody son took me to see Hereditary. They know I don't like bloody films. It was rubbish. It was rubbish. And try and rile the person up. Don't say it was good, because there would be like a negative thought process to it. Whereas even if you and I didn't like the film, or I liked the film and you didn't, there would still be that positive feeling about it. We went to see
we've done that. We've reviewed movies.
Yeah.
And we thought they were brilliant when we haven't seen them in years. Then we watch them again. It's like, oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
And then as we're going through the review, it's like, actually, oh god. And then, but there's still good nature about it, but we'll go through the plot. We have done that.
Damon said something about positive reinforcement,
So how do we do it? It's all right saying it out, but how do we actually do it? So the initial salvo, the opening remark, what are the triggers? What are we looking for to know that it's just purely to wind people up?
I think trying to make you embarrassed. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, just as a thought here, they say when you're in a job and you do a task, and the boss looks at that task, but he thinks there's a fault there, you're supposed to start off with a positive comment, then go into what's wrong with it, and then end with a positive comment. I think to recognize these trolls, as the case might be, it's mostly all negative. There's no positive feeling about it. And I think
the language is purely negative.
True horror fans might start off, for something. Well, the start was pretty good, but then it just went into absolutely rubbish, and so there's that feeling of positive, negative, positive about it. Where
I was really looking forward to this, but this happened. Yeah.
Someone who doesn't like horror would probably try and rile you up from the start, saying, "Oh no, it's rubbish. It's terrible. No, you don't want to go and see that."
So we see horror fans do it as well. You know what I mean? It's not just non-horror fans talking about horror movies. We see horror fans put those hyperbolic statements out there about a movie. Yeah. So it's how I recognize it. Like mine is that whole fight me thing. You just know they're looking for an argument. That's it. So you just ignore that straight away. Another one is, if you don't like this movie, you're an asshole. And that's another one. Just all right, okay, mate. Yeah, I know what you're about. Sorry, MJ, you were about to.
I was just going to say, a lot of the things they say is like trying to embarrass you as well. Like, so I think that in terms of giving tips about how to not kind of have it impact you and become a big thing. It's like, don't ever be embarrassed about what you like. Own it. Just like, okay, well, you don't like it, but I really love it because of this, this, and this. And don't give into that kind of being made to feel embarrassed about liking it, which a lot of them do. I see it all the time. Like, oh, you must be an idiot. You must know nothing about movies. You must not be a true horror fan if you like this because it's not like this. And that is from like, because they'll come in with big sort of horror knowledge and stuff. So it is horror fans as well who do it.
Big brain.
Just try and embarrass you and make you feel like small because you liked a certain film or a certain thing. And it's a totally different way than just saying like, oh, I laughed at this part in Hereditary. I found it really funny. And it is really kind of personal that they get and just making you feel embarrassed. So just own it. If you like something, own it and don't rise to it. Just say, okay, well, I really loved it. You don't like it. That's fine. I'm going to go and watch it again.
Had a good time and I was happy. Damon?
Yeah, I mean, things that I see are pretty similar to what you're saying. It kind of it builds a verbal cage around everyone and sort of tries to put everybody in this box, right? Where if you disagree, you're wrong. So it is usually fairly easy to spot, but sometimes it's difficult because if somebody usually just say, I didn't like this movie or this movie sucked or whatever, not necessarily meaning that, everybody should feel the same way, just that people forget to say, I feel or I think or, whatever, that I feel this way about it. So people usually forget to include that part and just go straight for it, right? Most of the time, they usually mean it's just their opinion and they accept that and it's cool. But yeah, a lot of these people, they'll just go, if somebody has a varying opinion, like you said, they go right after it and it doesn't make sense. But what I usually do is I usually tell people, hey, you like what you like and that's great. Nobody can take that away from you because it's your opinion. That's cool. I don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with me. That's what makes the world go round, right? So it's difficult, but like you said, the easiest way to shut it down is, in order to extinguish a fire, you take away the air, and in this case, hot air. So when somebody's saying nonsense like that, don't respond. Or better yet, I think in order to avoid situations like this from every angle, before you speak.
Sorry, I missed that last bit.
No, what I was saying is I think people just need to think before they speak in general. Because you have to realize other people are going to have an opinion. People are going to react potentially, or they're going to just ignore you. One way or the other, the person who is trying to make their opinion as the be all end all, everyone else is like, wow, this person sucks. So it's important even for them to think before they post, is everyone going to think that I suck because of this? And hey, if you don't care, that's fine, but don't expect engagement on your social media profile if you're an asshole.
Yeah, other people get off on that as well. It's being the character, the asshole type, they get off in the conflict.
Right. And I think we had, there's some social engineering that's happened there over the past 15 years or so. When you look at like the shows like we have American Idol, and all the Gordon Ramsay shows, it's all based on somebody just pissing all over other people's work. And it's that negative, interaction that gets a rise out of people. They get excited and laugh or whatever they do, or they get upset. It's theater. That's all it is. It's theater. And those people are benefiting financially from it because it's not real. If people act like that in the real world, somebody's not going to take it. They're going to get their ass handed to them. So,
I blame wrestling for everything. That's my default.
I mean,
People think the dialogue in wrestling, or when two people are having an argument, right, and they're like, "I'm gonna kick your ass," and then politely hand the mic over.
right.
To the other person goes, "Oh, I'm gonna kick your ass," hands the mic back, and you're like, "Yeah, that's not real."
Right, exactly. So, I mean, I think people forget that there are reasons for those interactions on, on TV shows and in movies and stuff like that. It's because it's theater. That doesn't fly in the real world. It just doesn't. There'd be bodies every. But no, but seriously though, people really need to just stop for a second and think. Is this really what I want to do? Are the reactions going to be beneficial in any way? Is that what you're looking for? Like, you have to just think about what the goal is. And if the goal is just to be a troll, okay, fine. Then that's what you're going to do. You're going to be a troll. People are going to throw you back under the bridge, and that's going to be that.
Mm-hmm. But are people not getting more wise? This is my concern, and this is where the sort of censorship, they get too caught up in once again, this being virtuous nonsense. Where if you're having to worry about being virtuous, then you have to look indoors. If that's your concern about how good they look, as in how pure of heart they look to people, then you've got a problem. Because I'm a gobshite. You probably twigged on anyone who's watched this channel for a while. That's just me. I'm comfortable with that.
Social media is getting so restricted now about what you can and can't say. So, in a way, if you were to put something about how good a horror film was and describe one of the scenes in it, chances are they're going to come and say it goes against their community standards for describing how bad this scene was.
Funny enough, that's one of the points. Do we have to completely change our language to fit in with a social media algorithm? Because 9 times out of 10, it's not a human; it's a bot picking up phrases and words.
Yeah, they're using AI. I haven't run into any situations where it's been written. The situations I've run into repeatedly are all visual. So the AI can't tell the difference between special effects makeup and a crime scene. It's incapable of doing that. And that's why human moderation is important, because there needs to be context. AI doesn't understand context yet. It's operating maybe at like a 3rd grade level at best. So in order to have that context,
it's good.
Right, exactly. I mean, you need people right now, right? Like if you have two friends that are, posting to each other, and one of them calls the other one an asshole, and the other one laughs about it, there's context there. Nobody was offended, nobody was hurt. It's two friends who are, getting along and
just bothering each
that's
other.
It. Yeah, they're just giving
if
each
you
other shit.
if you said it to Colin and I didn't like it, I can report it, even though you might like it, Colin.
And then the both of us get banned.
Right.
And that's the way this craziness. But that was another point I actually wanted to bring up. Not just the algorithm. No, that's part of the thing. It's just not intuitive whatsoever. And 9 times out of 10, I've suffered this on bloody Facebook. I'm not even promoting my own stuff, promoting other people's. Yeah. Authors that come on the podcast, and we do segments, narrative fiction, and I'm promoting their books because that's kind of thanks for sharing your work. So obviously I do posts and put it on, share to them. And a number of times Facebook's like, this goes against our community standards. And then the minute I push back, it's dealt with, no problem. It's got to the point I'm not even polite about it anymore. I'm like, you idiots, you morons, this is not the case. Oh, right, sorry about that. And that's it, fixed. That I just got to the point I don't care. But what about the people that actually, they purposely join horror groups and forums to complain about and report the material? Like, that's their sole purpose. Like, what is that mentality about? I don't go on the romance groups and forums. I'm just trying, or other things that, I've become less and less interested outside of horror as the years go on, because it's just trite. And I'm getting enough from the horror genre because there's just so much there. But there's these people, well, actually go purposely looking for the enemy, the thing they don't like, but the opposite, and that's their pure purpose, to report. Why? Does anyone want to pick that one up?
It's like the Wikipedia page on Facebook. People do that. They join it and then complain about the posts that are on there. And the number of times Facebook have gone, Wikipedia, we've had this report, we're going to shut you down for a while. And then, and then nothing comes of it, and the Wikipedia page comes up. I like Wikipedia, I think, because you get the funny photos up, but that's just
I haven't
me.
seen that in years. Didn't think it was still going.
It's like you said, it's the same with horror groups. There's horror pages on there, and
the clues in the title.
Yeah, and they'll just press the report button because there's a scene of someone standing over on the poster with a knife or something like that, and then it goes through all the algorithms of it's inciting violence and things like this, and I don't understand the mentality of it. It's the old saying, isn't it? If you don't like what's on TV, change channel. Well, why go on to a horror group? Go on the Mickey Mouse page, where. But even saying that, even Mickey Mouse was banned, wasn't he, in 1931 or something? Because the cartoon was too violent. I've got it written here somewhere.
So they've even done it with Tom and Jerry, but that's another point later on about
Jerry Looney Tunes.
Where did I see it? Sure, I saw Mickey Mouse banned.
Oh yeah, I remember that. It was ages ago. Yeah.
Sure, I saw somewhere.
Well, while you're looking that up, MJ, any thoughts on those sort of people? I'm taking you've experienced them as well.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they don't just do it. They feel like they have to do it, I think, sometimes because they do feel like they're doing something that's good. So to them, they really do feel like this is a terrible thing that people are putting these books out that have violence in. But then it makes me frustrated because instead of just spending hours protesting against books that are just fiction, there's so many things that they could do against real violence in the world or like stand up against that, but they don't. They choose to just target the easy option, which is going for people who write books and publish indie works and things like that. Why not put that energy and that effort and that time into actually going after not going after them, but, protesting against real violence in the world? It baffles me. It makes me so frustrated because they don't even think about that. It's just, this is something that I can really get behind and attack these people putting out films and putting out books that don't actually harm anybody. But no, they'd rather just waste hours doing something that doesn't make any difference in the world at all. It just annoys people and it's pointless.
As you know from previous discussions, and I've discussed many horror creators, these combative people on the planet, like actual horror creators, are like the complete antithesis to the work. Yeah. And I've yet to see, I've seen enough evidence now, the percentages of that is true, and it's becoming more the norm, the rule that, if you tend to be a horror creator, you delve into the darkness, well, it tends to level out your personality. So the actual thinking you're inciting violence, actual violence, real world, couldn't be further from the truth.
Mm-hmm. One of my, I've got the
Damon, chat. Sorry, just because I want to give everybody a chance.
Oh, sorry.
You went so far with seeing this in social media that you created your own app. Like, that's a big step, and that's actually a lot of work and effort to take from what I would say is a frustration to actually try and do something out of it. What was the turning point for you? Was it this sort of behavior, or was it something else?
It was a combination of things, really. The first, it was all about, this community needs something better. And then, I sort of spent some time, put pen to paper to figure out, okay. And then I started to see other things. I would see things like the Soska sisters got banned on Twitter. Why? They allowed
the comic book artists?
No.
The Soska, did you say?
Jen and Sylvia Soska. Yeah. Well, yeah. They did.
Yeah,
the
they're comic
books,
artists.
right. Yeah, they did American Mary and those movies too. I think they did See No Evil, Hear No Evil too. But yeah. They got banned. I'm like, what did they do? Twitter allows porn. What's happening here? Like, let's figure out our priorities. Where's the line? So I found that. Then one day I was searching. I was just trying to figure out how to do better on social media. So I searched for the hashtag horror on Instagram, and what I saw pissed me off so incredibly much that the rebellious side of me just sort of burst through and said, you know what, fuck all these people, I'm done. If you search the hashtag horror on
I'm just about to do
Instagram,
it.
I think Facebook now.
Or
it's
Facebook or
shocking.
Instagram, did you say?
I think it's both at this point.
Right,
It used to just be Instagram. I was stunned.
Go ahead, keep talking, I'll do it.
The implication there. And I'm really interested to see your reaction here, because this is the first time you'll be seeing it. I was shocked and so pissed off because it implies that anybody who is into horror is a problem to society. Either we're going to hurt ourselves or we're going to hurt someone else. That is a gigantic issue that I have.
Words that you're searching for are often associated with sensitive content. If you're going through a difficult time, we've gathered some resources from experts that we hope can help. Get support, big blue button. See results anyway, you sicko weirdo. Oh my god.
Well, show the fucking results and shut up. Nobody asked them. I mean, this is the thing that I have a problem with. Like, they're censoring
ridiculous.
They're censoring an entire genre of art. Okay, they don't have to like it. Nobody has to like anything. But the fact that they're taking that extra step to say, "Are you okay? Are people around you okay?" That's a huge, huge, huge problem, and I cannot state that hard enough.
No, this is the whole crux of this conversation.
Yeah. It's that, can we help? It's so patronizing. It's so like, oh, fuck off.
I'm sorry. I'm a fully grown adult. I've served in the forces. I've been on a few tours. I've grown up in a gnarly part of the UK, which wasn't too pleasant for a while. I've seen more in the real world than any horror book can show me.
Yep.
And I'm all right. Do you know what I mean? The worst part of my life is going through 2 marriages. That's, you know what I mean? I've lived life. I'm all right. I think I can cope with a few horror movies and books and images. Yeah. Bloody hell, like you said, how patronizing. I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
I'm angry now. I wasn't expecting to actually get raged doing this. I thought it could be sensible, but fuck off.
Yeah.
You bastards.
But I think that is so dangerous for children as well. If kids don't grow up actually seeing the real world, then when they get a bit older and it all comes blasted in because they've never actually seen it in real life.
Mollycoddled 30-something, 40-something adult babies.
It's just dangerous, I think. It's like the grim fairy tales that have been, told for, a couple hundred years. All of those fairy tales that it came from were all about horror and about what people might experience in life. And it's just being censored now. It's absolutely ridiculous.
And horror was always the warning.
Yeah. They've taken them and modernized them, which means they've taken all of the bad stuff out. And it's just pathetic. It's awful. And then people can't cope, when, someone dies in their life or they see a car accident or something, they're just absolutely broken because they've just never had any experience of, being eased in gently by just experiencing all of the crazy films and books that we consumed in the 80s and 90s.
But I would say it goes deeper than that. People can't manage their own lives.
Yeah.
People actually, and you see the sort of ones, and you can correct me if you think I'm going off here, but the same people that are crying and want to cancel people and that, you look at their home lives and they can't manage their household for a start. They can't hold down a job. They don't have any actual friendships. They're all digital friendship. They don't actually have any real world connection with other human beings. Am I going too far or overgeneralizing? Just tell me if you think I'm. But that's what I've sort of seen, especially for the most egregious of these sort of folks. That's their sort of posts is always, whoa, whoa, poor as me. I can't pay my bills this month. Can you help? Blah. And that's the pattern I see time and time again. Yet somehow they think they have the right to dictate to me as a grown adult what I can enjoy or what I appreciate. And I find that disgusting.
Mm.
Am I too far off here, or how are we feeling about that?
The easiest way to make people helpless is to give them the ability to rely on others until they cannot rely on themselves anymore. I've seen this in many different aspects of life. I'm not saying it's not important to help people. It absolutely is.
No. Once again, this is not about absolutes.
Right. But when it's being made normal that people are being spoon-fed things, and I'm not talking about people who need financial or assistance or medical assistance. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just in general. I'm talking about very broad strokes here. Just when you make it too easy for people to not rely on themselves anymore. And I'm talking about, like, I'll use myself for an example. Okay, when I have, if I'm doing a job, right,
Mhm.
and then I had somebody working for me, I came to rely on them, and then they had stopped working for me. They moved to another job, and I found it harder for me to get back into my job because I relied on them. So I wasn't used to it. I leaned on them too much, and that was my fault. So I just had to figure, okay, I either do this or I don't. And so that's the kind of situation I'm talking about. Is that reliance on the outside when it becomes, we get too comfortable. And it's difficult. It's very difficult. And I don't think people choose to do that. I think it happens. But I think it's important to be aware of it. So, take that for what it's worth. Like I said, it's I'm not referring to people who are like in welfare situations and things like that. That's a completely different situation.
Oh yeah, that's once again, this isn't about you can't tar everybody's circumstance is different, but I've just noticed with these sort of people that are so adamant about like taking part in the cancel culture or taking part in censorship, that seems to be the pattern, that they just can't get there. And like we said, I think it's that they can't look inside, so their windows, their glass houses are broken.
Yeah.
And they continue to throw the stones, and it's like extreme examples show extreme patterns. But obviously, life's life. We all have it. None of us get through life unscathed. That's but it's most of us, I think, are reasonably thinking that we can take that and rebuild up again, and that's where story and art comes in as well. Because you see examples of people's lives falling apart, and then you see the negative, especially in horror. Horror is that uncomfortable feeling. So you see somebody's life has fallen apart, and they then reacted through negative. They could become a serial killer. They'll dabble in dark magic and open up they'll go into the crypt they shouldn't do and read the book bound in human flesh, written in blood, that you shouldn't do if you're thinking rationally. So horror shows us those examples of how things go wrong. This is how not to react to it because it goes badly.
Right.
But with censorship has taken away our ability to read those stories, to see those examples. And that is a part of that reliance that people are getting that point of, oh, please tell me what I should think. Please tell me what I should like. I don't want to have to do this myself. It's uncomfortable.
But what is the difference between seeing something on film but going into Waterstones and picking up the book? Because you can read about it. And in fact, some of the books are worse than the films because they censor them. You can read about it. But surely, if you were that serial killer who only liked horror and things like that, you don't have to see the film. You can read about it and read it in more detail. If you take one. I've got a chat on my website. People can contact me through Messenger and things like that. And some woman from New Zealand said to me, "I'd hate to meet you in real life." And I put, "Why? I'm quite a nice guy in real life, you know. I'm not a serial killer." But yeah, I'd hate to meet you in real life. She was complimenting my books, you know, and they run a book club and everything, and she said, "But I'd hate to meet you in real life."
Because they can't.
Did they really think that I was the book they were reading at the time was Sins of the Father, and in that, to get rid of a witness, he throws her over.
Oh yeah, he goes mental with the pram and everything else.
Yeah. Then he thinks, "What am I going to do with the baby?" So he chucks the baby for it as well. And she saw that as quite horrific, and she thought that that's the sort of thing that I would do. You know, I'd hate to meet you in real life. And I was, yeah, okay. But what I'm saying is, if that was put into a film, perhaps that bit would be cut out. Because, you know, violence against children is a big no-no, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
But they could still read about it in my book.
But they're going after books now as well. You see that, you know, and there's two things, right? There's always been, like, we talked about the video nasties, like the official censorship. So we'll maybe try and spin that. There's the official censorship, which has always been at loggerheads with horror. So I had the whole video nasty phenomenon went on for over a decade till like late 80s, early 90s, where, like I was talking to Cameron, he couldn't get over that there's movies that he watched that I couldn't as a kid unless they were sneaked over because of the like draconian censorship over in the UK. It was mad, like in the 80s, but we still got to see them because thanks to squatties coming back from Germany, there was always a ready supply. So it didn't stop it, and it didn't stop the want for it or the desire. In fact, it made it more desirable.
Yeah,
I think it made me a horror fan quicker, if I'm honest. That's naughty, you can't have it. Oh, really? Okay, give me more. But then you've got this. Is it a new phenomenon because of social media, or has it always been there of like community censorship?
And there, I mean, at least since I can remember, you know, we've always had, since I was young, we've always had organizations trying to censor something that they didn't like, right? We had, you know, thanks to one group here, we have these, you know, advisory labels on music. Well, we did until physical media disappeared.
True enough.
And you know, the tapes, the records, the CDs were all labeled that parental advisory, and that was something that happened in the 80s. You know, it was happening to rap, it was happening to metal, it was happening to, you know, well, lots of stuff really. And like you said, when you tell somebody they cannot have it, what is the first thing they're going to do? Even if they didn't want it before, they're going to want it because it's a taboo at that point. You know, you've made. It reminds me of that scene in Beetlejuice, where there's a great big arrow pointing to it. You know, if you want to make something go away, talking about it, and it goes away. That's the fastest way to accomplish that. If you want to keep something around, keep talking about it, and you're going to accomplish the goal of keeping it around. So, and actually, it makes it more popular as well. So, during those disputes for in the music industry of this stuff needs to be labeled, it became, you know, all these Christian groups that were fighting for this, saying, okay, you know, we don't want our children to suffer through this horrible. Okay. Meanwhile, they've got alcoholics at home, spousal abuse in front of them every day. How is escapism through storytelling the problem? You know, I think people like we said before, look in their own backyard, in their own mirror. They just look at everything else and have no idea of how self-aware they need to be.
Mhm.
And by avoiding all that kind of thing, you're creating a bigger monster for yourself. And to
No,
it seems to be these various groups that go after things, and they make it worse.
Yeah, well, there's I remember Guns N' Roses albums flipping warning censorship. That's on the bloody radio. It's the most milk toast band. Yeah, some of their lyrics. Well, their lyrics are all the same. It's all about getting drunk and stoned. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the entire Guns N' Roses catalog. But flipping it plays now on the radio, and people are all like, "Oh, you're listening, you're a devil worshiper," rah, and you're like, "Yeah, all right."
But I always think as well, like a lot of it is a smokescreen because the media don't actually want you to focus on something else. So the focus is, oh my God, this thing's terrible. This is what we want you, all of your eyes to be on. And it's hiding something. It's like the Hungerford massacre, when there was all the censorship going on and people were saying that he did it because he was like watching these movies and listening to the music. And they pressed that because they didn't want it reported that the police were slow to act. They'd had a lot of phone calls come in saying there's a guy with a gun wandering around Hungerford and he's killing people. And because there was a telecommunications error, it took a long time to come out. It was kind of like not to the extent of a Hillsborough situation. They weren't blaming the victims, but it was, let's blame this, these movies that this guy who did it has been watching, because we don't want the attention to be on the fact that the police were slow to act on that point. And it does seem to be that there is quite a lot of that with censorship. It's always to hide something else. So they want your attention and they want you to get up in arms about this thing that doesn't actually really matter because it's hiding something that is higher up and more impactful on everybody's lives. And I think that's another thing that we should say to people who do get carried away with thinking that, putting a blight on all of these things that do stretch your mind a bit and that do make you think, oh my God, that's shocking. Why are you being told that you cannot see it? What is the reason behind you being, it being thrust upon you that this is terrible and this is so bad? And is there something that you should be looking past? And that should be the real thing that you're up in arms about. It's just, the smoke screen a lot of the time for a bigger issue, and it's frustrating again.
I don't understand why people watch mainstream media, especially today, and think that it's impartial or doesn't, it's even trying to be newsworthy. It's the most hyperbolic, just guff. And the talking heads are the most bland. Their auto cue readers are nothing about them.
Yeah.
Same as Hollywood. Like, who the hell looks at Hollywood and thinks, "Oh, they're the best of the best"? It's
and they're so impartial.
When they try to do podcasts or come onto YouTube, when the pandemic and stuff, they failed miserably because they've no actual personality in this. Somebody tells them what to say. There's nothing there, and yet people still hold these people up as if what they're speaking is the truth. No, they're being told by their handlers what to read off an auto cue, and they just pretend to be passionate about it. And when everyone's telling you one thing and there's no discerning voice, and this is back to they're doing it with horror, and they've always done it with horror. Why we're still getting back? Why do people still buy into it? Especially horror fans. That's a bit that bakes my noodle. It's actual horror fans that believe this stuff and don't go, yeah, but they were saying this about this movie, and I'm not a serial killer, so should I really be believing them? And why can't people make that connection?
Along the way, not how to discern the difference between fantasy and reality. And even when those two things are really discerned, don't know how to think briefly anymore. Because what I was talking about before, we are spoon-fed so much. No matter which side of the fence you're on, you are being spoon-fed every minute if you're paying attention to any form of media. And it's really, really difficult for anyone to have their own mind. And you'll have people here, for example, who say, I'm a free thinker. No, you're fucking not. You pay attention to the media, and you're saying you're a free thinker because somebody else said it. You're not actually thinking freely. And that's part of the problem, is that people are just made to believe their own or someone else's bullshit. And that's the problem. Teach people the difference between fantasy and reality. Teach people how to find facts. Then we'll be able to have reasonable conversations. But until then, it's a struggle, because information is just, it's immediate. So there's no, it's really hard to tell the difference between fact, fiction, or something in between. We're just expecting.
It's taken me 3 years to have this conversation with this podcast going. And I've tried to broach the subject multiple times with like a whole plethora of people. Like, I've had hundreds of people now involved in this show, and nobody wants to talk about it. Is that part of the reason? Because what do I think? They're waiting to be told. And if I was to lead the conversation, they would nod their head. But when I try to, what do you actually think? And that's the times I get frustrated during interviews. It's like, what do you actually think? Not the soundbite that I've heard 100 times before, or listen to me because I am a gobshite and have a big mouth and a microphone, and just nod your head along with me because I talk loudly sometimes. But trying to get people to actually formulate their thoughts.
Do the BBFC have a book of guidelines? And if they're reading these guidelines, the first guy might think differently to the second guy, to the third woman, to the fourth woman, on how to interpret the guidelines. So you might get someone, oh yeah, that'll be a 15, and you might get someone else saying, oh yeah, no, that's going to be an 18. You might get someone, we could get away with a PG, and just how do they come to the conclusion that it's got to be an 18 horror film? Are they actually saying, oh, it's a horror film, straight to 18? Or I know some get to 15, don't they?
I think the name horror, I think that's a lot of that name just invokes so much in people. That's something I actually wanted to talk about. Next was that the whole idea, the horror genre is that uncomfortable feeling. It's the most emotive of the genres. It actually forces you most times, because it covers everything. You get social commentary. You have, back in the day, you've got the thought of, and you've even got ambiguous characters who are not necessarily good or evil put into a situation. And as we know, ghosts are stupid. That's the official stance of this channel. So the 9 times out of 10, the ghost doesn't make sense why it's going woo, So you have to try and think yourself why this is happening. Horror fans sometimes have problems trying to muddle through that. That's why we have these weird conversations and hyperbolic, fights, just using hyperbolic statements. How difficult is it then for somebody outside horror to understand this genre? And is it that uncomfortableness that's brought forward that you have to actually think for yourself? Is that what revulses them so much? Damon, we've lost you there. We're not getting
better.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
I think it's a really difficult question to answer, because I do think there's a lot of subjectivity. So, you could take one person and they may be one way. You could take another person, they may be completely the opposite, but still have the same opinion. That's why I find it a little difficult. I'm getting something though.
Yeah, it's like if we talk about a movie, we could all like a movie, but we like different aspects of it. We mightn't agree about, our take in certain scenes or thoughts of the character. No, and that's what makes an interesting, lively conversation. That's why I enjoy. That's why I don't like debate, because debate implies there has to be a winner. I like discourse, because then we're getting to the meat and bones. And if horror fans find that difficult, how impossible is it for people outside of horror to understand this genre? And most importantly, how do we bloody challenge it? Because I'm sick of being labelled as, some inbred psychopath who can't discern fantasy from reality just because I happen to like more the darker aspects of things. And I think the darker aspects of things helps me level out as a person because I can appreciate that and laugh, and then I've no desire to do anything outside because I've got my catharsis. But people just label us and we can't seem to get past it. And what do we do as horror fans to challenge it? How do we, without being censoring ourselves or having this fake fluffiness? It's something I worry about. As like I said, a lot of horror creators are nice people, but some can be overly nice because they're overcompensating.
It's going
And
back to
don't become the thing we hate.
it's going back to what I just said just now. You know, if you have this BBFC and group that decides what it should be, you know, you might get half a dozen people on there that like comedies or period dramas. So who's representing the horror on the BBFC to say, oh, you know, this is my point of view on this horror film? You know, just how is it governed? What guidelines?
Should the title horror not be enough?
Yeah.
To give people a steering as to what they're about to watch or read or look at.
Yeah.
But I think there is that judgmental thing about it, isn't there? Because you say horror and people will immediately just be like, oh, no. But it's like one thing that I do to counteract it is to say, well, did you see anything worse than that in Game of Thrones, for example? I mean, there's a more gory scene that I've seen in Game of Thrones, but that's fine because it's not under the horror genre. Whereas people will come at something that's just a horror movie and has a slight bit of gore in or a slight suspenseful scene and just be like, oh, God, no, can't possibly watch it. Whereas when it's portrayed to them in a different form, like, oh, this is a fantasy or this is an action
movies are the worst
they're all over it.
What have we seen? And the big thing about horror movies, obviously, not just the suspense or the creature, but the kills. Obviously, that's what horror is, like a staple of horror, what we're known for. But what type of kill has been played out in horror that hasn't been played out in action? We've seen people, like, we're brought up Disney there. We've seen people in Disney be decapitated. Star Wars, we've seen people get their arms cut off. Star Wars.
Yeah. If you think when
seen people get run through with swords, Princess Bride.
When Rambo 2 came out, there was a big thing about how many people he killed and how he killed them. It was quite a huge thing on you know the television. Oh, Rambo, that you know we're thinking on banning it and everything because he kills 17 people. Well, it's Rambo. You know, he's an ex Vietnam War vet, and you know he's got a bit of a thing with you know the guys hunting him down, and you think nowadays to kill 17 people in that way would be nothing. So what's changed as well? You know, why back in them was it not acceptable, and why now it's more acceptable?
Well, do you think
and yet it's still not acceptable in horror?
Have these guidelines changed, and it's still not acceptable in horror? Yeah.
Do you not think the Rambo thing was more about the political commentary in it? That's why they didn't like it, and that's why they didn't want people to see it, because
but then, like you said about the media,
wasn't it?
Focus on that one aspect and detract from the actual conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
The my other half says, where do you want to go on holiday? I says, I want to go to Vietnam just so I can say when I was in Nam.
God, it's but that's what I mean. Why do other franchises get away with that, and yet we still get labeled, and it's still the same? It's the same boring conversation. It doesn't change.
I think part of that may be because as much as horror movies make Hollywood and big studios, I don't think that the governing bodies want to admit that there's any value there, because it's not done in the artful way that's up to their standards. There are many horror movies that are perfectly artfully done, but who are you asking about art? You know, that's really the question, I think. Because if you have somebody who's very pretentious and only likes
A24 stuff, for example, would be.
Sure, we could call it that.
Yeah, but in A24 kind of goes into that sort of realm.
Yeah, maybe they'll look more fondly upon one of those movies versus Blumhouse, for example. So I think it really just depends on who you're asking. So yeah, if you're asking people who don't like horror movies to give them ratings for other people, that's kind of subjective. I don't know how subjective ratings are here. I think that they're more objective because it has to fit within certain parameters. Like there's there's certain nudity in it, or there's a certain amount of swearing in it, or something like that, or there's a certain amount of violence or blood in it.
I present to you action movies.
Yeah. And I mean,
Under
I
Siege,
feel like
there's boobies in
right.
it. This channel's a fan of boobies. Hands up. We maintain our 30% KPIs of movies with boobies in them religiously.
Are they that objective when it comes to certain content, or is it just really a subjective thing?
Do horror fans? That's the thing as well, because are horror fans only the one type of person that only exists in the one sphere of society? Like, are there no horror fans that can be part of classification boards? Are there no horror fans in the corporate world? Are there no horror? Are all horror fans just working in retail on a Saturday? Are we all like under the same brush? Is that it? We're just the generic model.
A lot of us hide ourselves from the rest of society, as I've come to find through people who've joined Slasher. You don't know how many people I've come across who have said, I could finally be myself. I don't have to hide what I like or who I am. That was a really, really difficult thing, because I'm so disappointed in humanity at this point when I heard it was like kind of people to make you feel like you can't enjoy fiction.
I wouldn't bring this up on work. And I wouldn't bring up the fact that I'm a podcaster and talk about horror or write about a horror now and again. I wouldn't bring it up because I know what I'm going to get.
Exactly. And that's an incredibly disappointing facet of society, in my opinion. Because what kind of people really have to take issue with it to a degree where people need to worry about it and feel like they have to hide it? That's really, really difficult. And I'm just glad that I don't feel that way myself. I feel incredibly fortunate that I feel like I have to live that way. If my life was different, I might, I can't imagine how difficult.
No, it fully sympathize. It's like I said, I've been there, and especially working over the time, working a lot of sort of public sector places, not in conformist institutions. You don't, because the minute you set yourself aside, that's it. You're a pariah.
Yeah.
And we have a right to like what we like, and we have a right to exist in society, whatever level or area. We should have the right to pursue what we do. Not everyone's going to be a full-time horror creator. That's just reality. As much as I try to encourage people to create, even if it's not for profit, we're all don't have that luxury.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't be banished from society. But there's this thing of and the same people are talking virtue and equality and all them words. Are then the most horrendous and nasty towards horror fans? Which is why I don't understand the sort of guff that's come in lately into horror, because we're already the weirdos and freaks and the outcasts. And as long as you enjoy what we enjoy, you're welcome. That's always been the case. So it's always funny when people try to interject that horror nonsense in the horror genre. It's like, it just falls flat in its face. Because everyone's like, what? Nah, go away. Obviously you get the troll. The troll loves it. They just they're there for the argument, like we said, and that's why we need to start recognizing them and not feeding them.
I think it's that underlying judgment, isn't it? It's like the one genre where people find it really difficult to separate the fact that it is just someone who's writing a fiction or, creating a fiction movie, and it's not actually their opinion, and it's not actually that they want to go out and do that stuff. Whereas people can read, like a thriller, a Patricia Cornwell or something, where she describes something so gruesome and horrendous, and they don't have that same kind of attack response to it, whereas when it falls into the horror genre, it seems to be people's heckles are just up immediately and they just take it very personally, and it's a strange kind of judgmental attitude people have about horror.
Yeah, I suppose my question is, I don't want horror to become mainstream. Don't ever think that, because the minute it becomes mainstream, it's dead. It becomes like everything else that goes mainstream. It just becomes bland, sanitized, boring, out of the thing. But what should our reaction be? I suppose that's the question I want to ask. Should we always be trying to combat this, or should we just revel in it?
Well, so there's a couple of ways of thinking, right? Like, you've got your way of thinking about it, but it depends, really. I think it really just depends on how it's handled, because so anybody that's created anything in horror that's become valuable started somewhere, right? Stephen King, for example, he sells tons and tons of books. Okay, Damien Leone, he's a great example. He is a huge up and comer. After Terrifier came out, his trajectory was set. So
as long as he reins it back for Terrifier 3, because I've had the conversation about that whole genre. He needs somebody in his ear going, "Whoa, put the brakes on, son."
But I mean, I think you see the point there.
Yeah,
he's keeping it the way he wants to do it. At least I think so. I don't think anybody is whispering in his ear way. So when you have movies that are from mainstream studios, let's face it, A Nightmare on Elm Street was definitely mainstream. The new Halloween movies, definitely mainstream.
Sorry, I was sitting on there for a second.
No, I'm not commenting on their quality. I'm just commenting on the fact that they're out there.
Just started
and big studios are really putting money behind this. So I really do think, and look, A24, they're making movies that are incredibly mainstream. So there's plenty of room for everybody to get something they like out of it. Whether they like the more highbrow stuff like A24 is putting out, or they like the real down and dirty stuff like Trauma. I really do think that there's the kind of stuff for everybody. It just depends on who's making the content.
Mm-hmm.
And if we have enough people making the content, everybody's going to get plenty of stuff they're going to enjoy. So personally, I think it's great to grow the community, to grow the genre, and to give people opportunities to make the content. Every person who is an author can reach the upper echelons of becoming a bestseller. You can do that. It takes time, it takes practice, it takes getting out there. Same thing with movies. If you've got the studio behind you, if you've got the money behind you, whatever it is, it's possible to do it. But everybody has to start somewhere. You've got to pay your dues. You've got to bust your ass and do the work. You've got to get out there and try and fail to succeed. You're going to make a lot of shit. You're going to pay attention. You're going to go, what did I do that was shitty? And then you're going to have another opportunity, because that community that's interested in the content is still there. So I'm all for growing the community and the genre, because I think it just creates more opportunity for people to become successful and make careers out of what they love, versus just kind of scrounging for so many years. it's difficult to become an artist and be successful. But by having people who are interested in what you do, that makes it easier. It just becomes a matter of reaching them, and then you can scale from there. But you have those people know where to reach them, know how to reach them. That's the part that's hard right now, because they're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're on Twitter. They're not on any of those things, and you've got to dig and look and lift the real rock, because Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, they make it hard. They make it really hard for creators like you guys to be discovered. Not only do you have the algorithms that are challenges all by themselves, where you have to practically work to create content full time for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, until the algorithm cares enough to pick you up, and then they reward you with crumbs. You're working for them so that they can sell more ads, and then they decide slowly, depending on how much people like you, throw crumbs your way. That sucks. And then to that, third, if you try to use the hashtag, it's really, really difficult for horror creators to be discovered these days. Unless you've got a lot of money backing you, you're going to have a hard time. So I don't envy anybody who's trying to do it these days. I am trying to work on a solution, though, because I am finding that it is possible for people to do what they want to do, find one another, to connect, and to have a symbiotic relationship. It's hard to do right.
Oh yeah, that's one thing about we have loads of independent creators on this show. I always say we need more creators, not less. In terms of filmmaking, there's a golden opportunity right now, because this strike it's on, it's gonna, you mightn't see it right this minute, but come September, October, there's going to be a whole stop the movie production. Independents should be leaping with joy, thinking, right, I'm getting my stuff ready now for distribution. Alternative means, because if people can't go to the movies, read a book, flip and get, have everything tied up, ready to go. There's a golden opportunity for independent creators to surge forward and get recognition and fill a gap. But people, I don't know why people don't see it. They still hold on to the old school and think I need these people to tell me I'm valuable, who despise them.
The only people that you need to tell you are valuable are the people who want your content. Those are the only people who matter, because anybody else is just static. It's just noise that gets in the way of the thing that you're looking for.
Yeah, that was actually, you kind of brought that as one of the points, that as horror creators, you don't be in this very long before you realize that you are working twice as hard and you're only getting maybe a third of the traction.
Yep.
It's not delusional. It's not a woe is me thing. There is actively, like, we just like at hashtag example is perfect. You see it right there in front of you. The minute you put that horror hashtag, or the minute you identify with the horror genre, that's it. You're flipping, all the sentry posts are turning the guns towards you. Think,
basically. Yeah, it can be happening. It can be much, much harder to be found. It's all so difficult. Every which way you try to turn these days, it's an uphill battle. So, my belief is strength in numbers, and by banding together, we take turns, right? Today we can promote your stuff. Tomorrow you promote our stuff. The next day somebody else promotes someone else. If we create our own ecosystem, it becomes a lot easier, because then you don't have the same types of battles to fight just to be seen, And they say that people don't take you as seriously if you're not on the social media networks and stuff like that. It's ridiculous.
if you've got eyeballs on your content, that's that's a human being at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what platform, doesn't matter
Right.
what badge. If you've got a human being watching or reading or playing your game, whatever it might be, because I've got some game players coming on the end of the month as well, like completely different thing I haven't talked about. But if you've got somebody enjoying your content, that's a human being. That's somebody that you should cherish. Doesn't matter what badge it comes under.
Yeah. It's like to sell in the horror industry, you've got to find your tribe and find your people. And when they're putting the blocks on us actually trying to find those people, it's just it makes it so much harder. And it's like Steve was saying before, why are people who aren't wanting to be a part of the tribe saturating it just to come in and tell us that we're doing the wrong thing? It's just like, it's hard enough to get the people in front of us. So why don't they just go off and, like you said, go and look at what they want to look at and leave us to it, and we can all come together and enjoy and celebrate horror without it being brought down all the time. But it's an ongoing problem, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's like also horror fans are like herding cats. Let's be honest. Like I have a private group. There's nearly 100 members on it, and I get maybe about 10 people that actually engage with me, even though it's all set up to try and get that mutual thing going. And sometimes I'm banging my head off the desk, but then I have people sharing my content, I have people support me, and then I remember why I do this. When I actually get things together, people that engage with face to face and not just typing on a screen, we'll have the conversations. I remember why I do this. What's your tips for anyone who's feeling despondent? Like, oh God, it's all against me. Oh, why am I wasting my time? I may as well go work in the 7-Eleven or Curry's, I may as well just give up. What would you say to people like that are feeling that way? Oh, the chat's finally came alive. Evening, Ryan.
Go away, Mum. I'll talk to you later.
In response to your question, I think people need to ask themselves, why am I doing, why are you doing, why are you writing the book? Why are you making the movie? Because if the answer is for money, if the answer is for fame, if the answer is anything other than because I love it, it's going to be an uphill battle. If you're doing something because you love it, it's going to be so much easier to fight this battle. Sure, there's a lot of times it's going to be difficult. You're going to get down on yourself. You're going to feel like the world is really just collapsing around you. But it kind of, you have to understand that there's more going on. It's not necessarily about you. These things are happening. Might not be for the reasons you think. It might not be for a reason at all. It could just be this random shitty thing to occur. All right, good. Well, is it enough to put you down? If it is, that's unfortunate, but do what's right for you. But again, I think if somebody loves what they do, it's going to be easier to get through that time. Mm-hmm. And there's not really that question of keep going or do I stop? Because I don't think somebody who really loves what they do is going to want to stop, because why?
Oh no, but you can hit that wall. It's how can you deal, like any reasonable person dealing with antagonism, and it's not even like, oh, I don't like your stuff, or no, it's not for me. I mean, this is outright antagonism. This is why we're here talking about this subject. It's not just a case of like I can go, oh, romance is not for me, or action flicks seen 100 times, not for me. But when it comes to horror, people are outright aggressive. In fact, it invokes that aspect of them, like we've all talked about, and like there's a nastiness, like pure vitriol. Like for some reason, people are so nice and oh, that horrible, and then the utter bile comes out of them against fans, not just creators, but fans of this genre, and also the vitriol comes out against independent creators. Seems to be that combination. Just if you're an independent horror fan and creator, that just is the unholy trinity of evil that people feel like they must stamp out with every ounce of their being, and they will spend their time. That's their holy crusade, to stamp out that independent horror fan and creator. It's you can't deal with that on a daily basis and not hit the wall. I mean, that's
criticism is hard, no matter what you do. I remember the first review that my app ever got was 1 star. And the comment on that review was trash. And I was like, wow.
How do you pick that? That's just...
I mean, but you know what, though? It made me not feel bad. It made me go, why? Why did they think that? And since that, I pick apart every single thing that I do and go, what is wrong with this? Because if I could figure out what's wrong with it and fix it before it gets out there, or figure out a way to make it, stronger. I mean, you can build a house on a solid foundation, and that's really all I do. Is, I don't go, oh, this feature's terrific, that's wonderful. I go, break this damn thing. I want to break this. I want to smash it into a million pieces and figure out what's wrong with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I can do that, then I can solve these problems. But
that's constructive criticism as well. That's a difference between...
Yeah.
And if we were dealing with constructive criticism, I don't like this aspect of your storytelling. I don't like this about your visuals. I don't like this about your pacing. Oh, right, okay. And you can process that. But more so in other genres, when it comes to horror, that's not what you get. You get...
Right.
Ah! And it's all, you actually feel sometimes the wind blasting your face and somebody just going, you horrible bastard, I hate you, die. But I'm a nice person. You don't like that horror stuff, they're all evil. And you scratch your head going, what? Anyway, Steve, MJ, you want to jump in? We've kind of taken over here for a minute.
So I would say to that question, I would always just say, like, write with or create with integrity, and that doesn't mean don't write about a horrible deviant person, because if that's what you want to write and you want to explore that kind of character, then that's writing with integrity, and it doesn't make you a bad person. So long as you're following your gut as to what you want to create and what you want to discuss with the world, then you shouldn't hit that wall, and you shouldn't let other people force you to hit that wall because you're writing with integrity or you're creating movies with integrity, and then it's something that isn't what other people tell you your integrity should be. It's what's inside for creatives, I think. And a lot of people would jump on the word integrity and say, well, you can't write about something so disgusting and have it be that. And it's like, no, that's not the point of it. It's very personal, and it's very like you say, connecting with the right people is what it's all about. If it's not for you, then it's not for you. And so just leave it alone. Let people consume it. Let people enjoy it where it does resonate. And for everybody else, if it's not for you, just do something else. Leave us do it.
It's like, I don't resonate with people that do the Instagram or TikTok dances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you don't spend half your life finding them and slagging them off, do you? Because you've got better things to do. Yeah. Leave them to it. Yeah. It's such a different thing with horror. People just do feel like it's an open door to just come and attack people, and it's really, really, it's getting to the point now where we're seeing quite a lot of people who are being, their lives are being impacted. Like we were talking before about Six Flags, and people losing their jobs because they've written an extreme horror book. It's not acceptable. It's not how this society should be going. We shouldn't be allowing that. I mean, everybody should have been in uproar about that, because it's crazy.
That was because it was actually on the Slasher app. The author's on Slasher, and he made the post and pointed to his YouTube video and talked about it. It was that post. It was originally Mina was meant to be on the show, but unfortunately life got in the way. She made a video initially that made me go, I want to talk about this. But his post, and sorry because it's been ages, I'm terrible with names. I've forgotten his name already.
See, Derry
But I
Mullet.
did, yeah. No, I actually gave him a lengthy reply. You know how shit he was, but that's what made me go, we have to talk about this.
Yeah.
We can't just be complacent anymore. And I think we need to start pushing back now. I think because it's not in our, like I said, there's a correlation between the nature of a horror person, who generally aren't gobshites like me, and I'll take the role of being that. I'll not have a problem fighting with people if it comes down to it. But I'm not afraid to go, oi, knock it in the head, not on. And I'm not afraid to stick my face out there and say it. You know, a lot of people aren't like that, and especially in the horror community, I've noticed that that's not the personality of the general horror creator or horror fan. They tend to be the least combative sort of personalities.
But if it can happen to one of us,
push back.
Yeah, this is exactly it. If it's allowed to happen to one person, then how many of us can it happen to? It's just terrifying. I think it's absolutely awful.
I think something else that someone talked about reviews just now, on the Amazon site, someone can write a bad review. They don't necessarily have to buy the book. And you get a lot of trolls. I've had a few who've put reviews on Amazon, but you've got no right of reply. So they'll give you a 1 star, but what can you do about it? You know, because it doesn't go against the community standards of saying, you know, that you can't do anything about it. And so you might get a non-horror fan, you know, giving you a bad review on a book that they've probably only just looked at the cover of, or read the back of the book. And you've got no rights of reply to say, hey, you're wrong here. Someone wrote about mine. Oh, he's wrote something about his family. It wasn't in the book. It was about a totally different thing. It was Sins of the Father, actually. You know, it was
good book, by the way, folks.
Yeah, you like Sins of the Father. Yeah, it's just horror can have such a bad press to it. And I was supposed to write. It was on my bucket list. I was only supposed to write 1 book. Well, you know, I've just finished number 8. If I did it for the money, I'd be disappointed, because I do it for me. If you don't like my book, it doesn't worry me. You know, because I wrote it for me. It's how I think. And I said to Colin, when I'm writing, like the stalker, I actually become the stalker. Not if you like, I don't go out knocking on some girl's door and you know, chucking things through a letterbox and stuff. But I actually become that particular person and think, how would I do this? Research what a stalker does and put it into some timeline about increasing the amount of pressure it's going to put on you know, the girl that this character's stalking. So, but yeah, it's personal to me, and I think horror is an art. It's a very good art, even down as far as if you remember, we looked at An American Werewolf in London. The art of doing the makeup. Well, you wouldn't get that sort of makeup from An American Werewolf in London, say, and that amount of you know, attention to detail in a comedy film about 2 guys going out on a stag night.
Well, we watched the Oscar presentation, and the host was like giving it through gritted teeth.
Yeah.
And then they brought up as a comparison The Wizard of Oz, the flipping Wicked Witch of the West, that awful green makeup that wasn't even
just
complete.
Green,
yeah, and it wasn't even complete because the white was under her eyes and it wasn't even put on properly. And that's what they're holding the same standard as. And some of the other stuff they were showing, like somebody getting a wee bit of a suntan put on them, that was the equivalent, apparently, of high art as American Werewolf in London. And you're like, no. One is not like the other, because one's completely blown out the other out the water with terms of creativity, ingenuity, and just imagination, you know. And do you think maybe there's a bit of jealousy? Because I always used the horror posters, for example, are the most imaginative. Like I remember growing up the days of the video store, you know, video rentals, VHS, and it was a horror posters that were put up. That's instantly, you know, when I was talking about Brain Dead with Dale a couple of days ago, there Thursday. I remember Peter Jackson movies, and everyone's like, "Who's this Peter Jackson?" I grew up with him, you know, because bad taste. That poster alone had me going, "Wow, I have to see that." You know, what I mean, Brain Dead, I have to bloody see that. That's wow. That, you know, just immediately captures imagination. And video stores didn't just do horror; they did all genres. But it's the horror posters that drew people in, whether they liked it or not. In fact, most people are resentful that the fact that they are intrigued by the artwork. Do you think there's maybe a bit of jealousy because of the passion? Like you can't be half in with horror. Let's be honest. You get into horror, your balls deep. There's no movies. You're in for the long haul. There's no just, oh, I might just have a wee go at this horror movie. You don't. You're in once you get it.
Yeah, it's addictive. But yeah, it's like an elitism, isn't it? I think a lot of the time with horror, it's like when you don't get it, there is that kind of snootiness and looking down your nose at it that you always get from other types of film goers. I think I don't know if we're ever going to be able to shake that off, really.
But that was my other question. Do we want to shake it off, or do we just want people to back off? You know, have your opinion, but stop attacking us. What is it we want to achieve by talking about this topic?
Maybe stop making it personal. Stop letting it affect creators' lives, and you know, that sort of judgment on who is behind the camera and who's behind the page. Yeah, definitely just take a step back and try and understand that it is an art form, same as drawing a picture and same as, you know, taking a photograph. It doesn't mean that you have an intention that you want to do what you're writing about or what you creating the movie about. It is just that you want to explore it as a piece of art and talk about it and tell a story and face the bad things that are in the world as well as the good things. You know, there's no harm in that, and there shouldn't be a harm in it, but people are trying to push that narrative that it is harmful, and it's more harmful to bury it, I think, and pretend that it's not there.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, go on. I'm just trying to bring something up here. Sorry, Damon, do you want to carry on a wee second? Like I said, what can we do?
Put you on the spot there, Damon, didn't he?
Wait a minute, what?
You'll get used to it. You'll be back. You know you'll be back on this channel, and we'll do this again. You'll be more up for it. You're like, all right, this is what it's about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. To your point, MJ, it is important to deal with things and not just bury them. You know, and like we were talking about before, these people who go on these, like, you know, self-righteous crusades to have things banned that they don't like, you know, they really do need to look inward and see what's going on there that needs to be resolved before tackling the rest of the world. So I do think that that's a critical aspect. But I mean, because, you know, every artistic thing is a subjective thing, and people do have feelings toward them, and they do, you know, if it's good art, it will bring out the good and the bad. You know, you're going to have people who really love it, people who really hate it, and it just means the artist can what they were working is to evoke that emotion. Like, seeing the way that people react, you know, I think it's important to keep everything in context. You know, if somebody says something sucks, they write that bad review or whatever, and there's no additional context, then don't give any weight to them, you know. And like you said before, not everything is for everyone. You know, fish live in the water. I'm not going to stick my head underwater and try and breathe. It's not for me. You know, so I'm just sort of staying in my lane, doing the things that I do enjoy versus I don't. Why the hell would I immerse myself into something I hate? Like, I'm just thinking about what would possess somebody to immerse themselves in something they don't. It seems completely insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the broken mentality of the troll is, and the person that'll, like, to me it's the most cowardly thing, like, to go and leave a bad review if you haven't even bought a bloody book. And there's a whole agreed, especially it's not just against horror, but it's against independent creators. There's this thing of people think that the corporations are the new religion. It's weird. It's like, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And anybody recently, there's a whole thing with Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons. Sorry, I might be showing how much of a nerd I am. Do apologize. Don't be frightened. Don't be frightened. It's okay. By the way, I'm on Dragonlance Saga's channel later to play Shadow of the Dragon Queen. So, but anyway, people were getting head up about. I mean, I got DM'd because I just said, well, the whole point of the thing is people create their own stories and they can sell and make a wee bit of money, and they're actually promoting the source material. Nobody's ever saying don't give money. In fact, they're bringing new players in, and that's the lifeblood of any like RPG games, is to bring new audience members in that mightn't like everything, but they might like that one thing, and there's a few customers that you didn't have before. I had people DM me going, "How dare you tell lies about Blood Wizard?" I'm like, this is a massive corporation who could quite easily send their own lawyers against me for express an opinion. Why are you getting so angry that you're actually going into my personal DMs and sending me a snotogram about a conversation? Like, that's how, and that person, and there's one or two people that are getting, I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why would you get that, angry that you actually have to come and get to me in person? The same as when I share, and I used to get a lot of trouble with Facebook, which actually I'm bringing up images to show in a second, but when I'm sharing around people who've published work that have been featured on the show, I would have people email me like, "You dumbass! How dare you share independent authors? You evil person! That are all shit." I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is emailing me and messaging me personally, and I share it with my private group, going, "Here's the latest lunatic. Check this out." I just laugh at it, but I'm like, what is in your mindset? There's lots of stuff in the world I don't like. But I'm not sitting going to Star Wars groups going, your stuff shit, your crap, your was, wumps are stupid, you're for kids, you muppet, why are you doing it as an adult? I don't do that. Yes, I'll take the mic on this show because it's my platform, I can do what I want. The same with the TikTok dancers and all. I'm like, not going, how dare you make that content, you bastard? It's... What is it about that mentality?
It seems that because of the internet, when you're like hanging out with somebody or you're working with somebody and they're thinking out loud, so you're going through their entire thought process for them to get from point A to point B.
I do that.
Well, I think that people on the internet and on social media are doing the exact same thing. Rather than thinking that process through silently, they're posting it. So basically the way that somebody would just speak it in person, these people are typing it because there's no filter. Why should there be? There's no ramification. There's nothing's going to happen to them. They're going to post it. Somebody will post back. Big deal. So I think that it's become easy for people to be shitty when there's no ramifications. If you said that to somebody in person, you risk having your ass handed to you.
Yeah.
You don't know anyone who's going to really do that.
Yeah, if you did that in person, got that egregious, yeah, but don't end the conversation.
Well, yeah. And I mean, more importantly, though, you know, that's again negative reinforcement. Okay, what about the positive reinforcement side? What does that look like? That looks like thinking it through and going, is this useful? Is this going to benefit me or anyone else? No, it's just going to piss your time away. So you are that much closer to death having spent your time in a shitty way, right? That's what you want to do. But I can think of a million other things to do with that fucking time.
Absolutely. You know, that's I think the creative mindset though. And that's why I say we need creativity, even if it's not for your business, for like people don't craft anymore. People don't make anything and just for themselves or crochet or, you know, silly things like that. That used to be the staple of the way people, you know, you still had TV, you still had movies, you still had books, but more people would have back in the day done a hobby. And seem to be sorry.
Stamp collecting.
Yeah, but that's, you know what I mean, something that you put your energy into.
Yeah.
And it yielded a result. People had what do you call them? You know, the plots. People used to have plots in the greenhouse. That was the thing. Or a garden shed. You know what I mean? Put a few pots and plants, and that was, you know, while the day away. But there was something from it. Has the digital age removed that? Allotment, that's a word, sorry, Oliver. Yeah. All that seemed to have just gone by the wayside now. Is there a correlation between people not having that connection anymore or outlet that's led to this aggravation? And it's just coming out. No, I mean, we're seeing it because we're getting the brunt of it because we're an easy target. But is there something deeper going on?
Do some people, as a hobby, troll? Do they think, I'm going to go online and I'm going to see who I can upset today?
I have met trolls in real life. And it was through, you know, they openly said it, and it's through politics, so they thought they were doing the right thing. Yeah. And that person is every stereotype. You know what I mean? If you put every stereotype of a troll, that was that person.
Yeah.
Who's like, I create all these accounts and I go in these groups and I do this. You know what I mean? They're 20 stone overweight. They can't walk from A to B without no friends, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Every stereotype you could imagine where the few people I've actually met openly admit they were trolls.
Mm.
Well, it seems like maybe those people just don't get any other kind of attention. You know, when you think about, and you make a good point about, you know, having like the garden beds and stuff like that and doing that sort of thing. I think even, especially over the last few years, a lot of us have been, you know, a little bit more separated from the rest of society. But when you have the internet and that's your only way of communicating with people, of course you're going to lose all empathy because you don't know what a person looks like face to face. You don't know how a person's expression changes when you say something shitty to them, or how the look in their eyes get when you say something that they love or that excites them or that makes them feel so appreciated and thankful and happy to be in your presence. I think that because there's such a large separation of those social experiences these days, that it's easy. And easy is not always good, because you haven't earned anything through anything that's easy. You know, so you really don't know what the struggle is like to achieve and accomplish something useful. Is my opinion.
Yep. People won't even step up and do this. The amount of convincing I have to do, like, to just get on a camera and talk. Like, the amount of people that are, you know, out there behind avatars won't come on and even have a conversation. Like, that is a step too far for them, and it's still within the internet. Like, we're four completely different people, four completely different backgrounds, and in the real world, the chance of us actually meeting in a pub, for example, is slim to none. I mean, 1 in a million chance. Yet through the internet, we can sit here and have a conversation and find common ground and discuss differences. But there's these sort of people I find won't even take that step. But how do we end up still? They dictate. And is it because of the willingness of the platform owners because they're prejudiced against horror, they're giving them what they want. So when they make the complaint, they'll instantly jump on it. It's back to the prejudice against horror, why these people are successful, where in the scheme of things, we can rationalize it, we can know the type of person and not get rattled, yet they are successful in being able to attack us, bring us down, ban us, shadow ban us, by not letting us even reach an audience.
So I think you used a really interesting word, successful. I find that success is reliant upon your willingness to not give a shit about what anyone thinks except for your audience. It's difficult. It's really, really difficult, because if you think about it, the way I look at it, at least, is I'm successful if I reach the people I'm intending to reach. I am unsuccessful if I get tricked by anyone else. Just a personal perception I have of this, but I think people need to focus on what if nonsense is important, by all means go for it. If it's not, and I don't believe personally that it is, keep going, stay the path, stay the course, do what you're intending to do, and don't let other things trip you up, because the time that it takes to waste on people who are never going to like your work, who don't have any reason to be a part of the conversation, just walk right by. It's like New York City, right? You can have so many people coming up to you trying to hand you a pamphlet or ask you to buy their demo CD, or whatever it is. They're trying to get your attention away from what you are trying to do and to get you to do their thing. But if you do your thing and stay the course, then you have successfully evaded all the things that you don't need to be involved in, that are only going to take up your time.
Actually, I have a funny story about that. We have a thing in the UK. They're called chuggers, charity muggers, right? They're awful people. They'll come up and they used to be really aggressive and stand in front of you. And somebody's like, "How can I not shake your hand? If you don't stop, I can't shake your hand." Just they get really in your face. And I'd be going around with a fist in my pocket and get the frig away from me. And then one day, I'm like, I just saw him, and all I hear is, "Colin." No, can't be. I turn around and it's somebody I knew. It's actually doing the job. I'm straight over. What the name began with D, but I'm like, what the hell are you doing this shit? What are you doing? What the hell do you think you are? Getting in people's face and doing this. Like, sorry, mate, I'm really. Do you know how annoying you are? Freaking doing this, and what are you doing associating? I mean, I don't know if I can be your mate anymore. And then later on, I got a text going, "Yeah, see what you mean. I quit the job." Getting something 15 quid an hour to go and get people to sign up these direct debits for charities, making a nice earner and commission as well for so many sales. And I just lit on him. I'm like, normally you don't associate with somebody one of those folks who just get in your face, and I'm usually get out of my way. I just want to get from point A to point B.
I just speak German to them in Hitler style. But the stuff I come out with is they don't understand. Die Messerschmitt is kaputt. See, my Messerschmitt is broken, but they don't know that. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I'm all for ignoring these people, but when they're actually getting your way, that's where we'll need to think of a response.
To what degree do they get in the way? I think that's the question. Do other people see through the bullshit? If they can't, I totally understand that, because
let me put it another way. Obviously,
Yeah.
somebody gives a 1-star review, so therefore you need 10 3-star, 5-star to balance it out. The horror fans need to understand why it's so important to support the creators that they enjoy. A lot of people are reticent to give that. Even getting people to hit like and subscribe on these channels, which is totally free. Doesn't cost you anything. It's a couple of button clicks, but it tells the algorithm that you're valuable. but people are still will watch the content, but they're reticent to do that. They won't give a review, even if it's something simple like "I really enjoyed this," and I'm guilty myself because I'm really terrible. People give me, I read books all the time, and it's like a month later I'll get back. Oh God, better do some reviews. I'm as guilty as anybody else because we all get caught up in time. But if you're not a creator and you're a fan, is there an onus on the fan to understand what's actually up against horror creators? And this is how you counteract.
Well, in my personal opinion, the question is do they want more content? Do they like if you want more, then support it. If you wanna get more books, more movies from that creator, support it. If not, leave it alone. The question is, what do they want? In my opinion, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's as I have two writers here as well. Fan engagement. How difficult is it to get fan engagement? People actually do that extra step and do the button click. Not even just financially support, but that bit that actually means so much of sharing your latest work. Steve, MJ, do you want to jump on that one?
Do you want to say, Steve?
No, you carry on.
Right.
We're getting on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think there are ways, like there are sort of groups that are focused on horror books, like Books of Horror is fantastic. And they always say as well, like the reviews are for the reader rather than the author. So, I mean, that is an opinion now, but it has to be.
Yeah, I don't mean. Sorry, maybe I need to.
Sorry.
I don't mean in terms of say you're brilliant, etc., etc. I mean to counteract. The troll is out there. The troll will actively try to destroy you.
Yeah.
The anti-horror person will put the 1-star review just to screw you over. Do horror fans need to understand that, and how hard is it to bring that across without being whiny? You need to give me reviews, because if not, it's only the trolls are going to do it. The trolls are definitely going to give me that review, and it's definitely going to be the 1-star review with the purpose of getting me taken off the platform. This is not just to show your appreciation, but it's important you do this. Sorry, that's the point I was trying to.
Sorry, yeah. I mean, it is really. It's hard because you don't want to. I don't know. You don't want to be that person who's just like review me, review me, review me, review me. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Really, it's tricky.
That's why we're having this conversation, because it needs to be brought. The other reason behind it needs to be brought to light, and then
Definitely
something active people can do to counteract the negativity.
Well,
like Damon said, positive reinforcement. But
some
people are so reticent.
Some people don't even believe reviews. Now, me, TripAdvisor, and you get someone who goes for a meal in a restaurant, who just goes in a bad mood, for instance, and the meal's not as good as he has at home, so to speak. He's going to give it a bad review, but you could go and you could have the best meal out. But if you looked at that review and thought, oh, he had a bad meal there, I'm not going there, you'd miss out on the opportunity of getting, something that you might like. And it's the same with a book or a film. You might read a bad review. There's been some films that have had
I've done that. I've been in the bad mood and read something
bad reviews on films in Total Film, and the opposite way around. They've been totally good in Total Film, and yet I've gone to see them, and the bad reviews, I thought this is actually quite good. That Meat Train film you told me to watch.
Oh, the Midnight Meat Train, yeah.
That had bad reviews, and I quite liked it. And I thought, oh, bloody Colin, he don't have to watch some rubbish. But I
that is true. I have evidence in the channel.
But are reviews a form of censorship? Are
they though? Once again, this is down to right. So you've hit the nail on the head here. I think this is the talking point. Is it about the delivery of the review? It's not absolute. I like this movie. You might like this movie too, or the movie's shit if you don't like this, or it's a shitty horror movie. You're a baby snatching psychopath if you watch horror movies? You know, is it all
Yeah.
about the delivery? And the question I was trying to ask is, if you enjoy something, is there, especially as a horror fan, put it this way, is there more of an onus on you to support that creator and vocalize it because of, use TripAdvisor as an example, you're guaranteed if you run a business, your competitor across the street has put in a bad review against you. That's how dirty that platform can be, for example.
Yeah.
So you have to counteract that, you know what I mean? In a law of averages, you'll get bad reviews, good reviews. That's, you know what I mean? That's back to art being subjective. That's being the eating experience being subjective. You know what I mean? It's all about that. You're going to get that balance. And in a law of averages, generally, if you've produced quality work, you're going to get more good reviews than bad consistently. Do you know what I'm saying? But when you've got the bad actor who is actively going to try and destroy you using the system in place, is there an onus on the fan? If somebody enjoys your work, is there an onus on them to understand what's actually happening here and then be more inclined? Look, you're not just leaving a review because you enjoyed it. You're leaving a review because you're trying to balance out the bad faith actors who are actively trying to take this person down for no other reason than they exist, for no logical reason, but just because they want to. They get a sense of power from it. They hate horror creators, and they will literally spend their entire day doing this because that's what gives them purpose. So there has to be a counterbalance, and this is where I'm saying it's not enough to complain.
This is what I was saying about the BBFC.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might get these, I don't know, 4 people that go to the cinema to watch, you know, from the BBFC to see what sort of rating to give it, but you might get all 4 hate horror. And should all genres be going to see this horror film to give it the rating?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because
so should there be a devil's advocate for each? Like there should be a romance fan when they're categorizing romance movies. Should there be an action fan in the panel? Should there be a horror fan? You know, how do you build that in though?
I don't know. I don't know what the the rules. Do they go by a book? You know, oh yeah, that's horror. Oh, they've killed someone twice. You know, so that's going to make it an instant 18 certificate.
Yep, but Rambo's done it 50 times in one scene. With the never-ending, I always used to laugh, like the never-ending magazines, you know, with 3,000 rounds in them, you know, in the belt that just goes on for about 2 miles on the machine gun. But that's okay, that's fine, that's allowed. But yeah, 2 kills in a horror scene.
Personally, I think that the old censorship scheme is a bit like the courts with the juries. It's out of date. It cannot be guaranteed. You know, and if you take statistics, right, they say that the minimum amount of people you should gain to have a statistic is 250. Right? So why isn't the rule of statistics placed on censoring films where there should be 250 people and the rating should be given by those 250, and the best rating is what goes to the film, because that's a rule of statistics. And censorship is a statistic, surely. You're actually saying to people, this is what it is. Where if you've got 4 people who all hate horror, going to give it an 18 certificate, so anyone under the age of 18 can't go and see it. It's not.
Yeah,
it's not right, because it's 4. It's the same if you get. You know, I've been on jury service. You get 12 people who don't like, you know, Marines who are in for giving someone a kicking, and they don't like people with short hair. That's only 12 people. Well, that's not a statistic. That's, you know, you got these 12 people condemning you. And it's the same with censorship. If you've only got, I don't know how many, you know, what is the rule for how many people go and see a film and give it a statistical censorship?
Yeah. But we're seeing, just to play devil's advocate, we're seeing the other side of the coin here, because we're seeing trial by social media. So a couple of thousand people decide we don't like that person, to have to go, or even justly they all dogpile and they decide, okay, we're taking this person down. It happens. Now, thankfully, the pendulum's starting to swing back a bit, but the amount of damage that's been done over the last 10 years has been ridiculous and completely uncalled for.
Yeah.
Um,
And you could say, you know, if you've got a script writer looking through social media to see who's a writer, and they see all negative comments, they think, oh yeah, oh, Jane Morris is on there. Oh no, I'll take a look at her stuff on Amazon. And they see all negative reviews. What effect is that going to have on MJ's chances of getting that scriptwriter to contact her and say, I'm interested in your work? Will
So
they
back
go
to-
any further in the review?
back to the question I was asking. How do we explain to horror fans that this is actually happening? And there's more of an onus on you to, if you like something, you need to support it. And that unfortunately involves, you know, giving that review, because you have to, it's not just about dragging people towards the work, it's about counterbalancing this madness that's going on. How do
Yeah.
we explain that to people?
Well, the only way to really do it, especially with places like Amazon, you know, you don't have any rights to your customer through Amazon. So the only way to do it is in your description. You know, at the end of your description, you can always say something like, you know, dear horror fan, and then just explain, you know, in order to keep providing you with work that you enjoy, you know, we'd appreciate a good review, something along those lines, just explaining the situation, because, you know, unfortunately, Amazon doesn't give you those opportunities.
Yep.
As if you were selling directly. You know, if you're selling directly, you have a connection to that customer, and unfortunately, they just don't really give you that. It's their customer. It's your product.
Yeah,
Their
you're just
customer.
a third-party retailer or such, you know.
You're
using their
just
platform.
fueling their fire.
Well, hopefully this conversation
Yeah.
can be snipped, and, you know, horror fans who watch this understand that there's more play here than just, you know, it's always nice to give a review. It's always nice to support your creator. We always appreciate that. That's, you know, that's always fantastic, but it's actually more necessary than you realize. I think that's the point. I'm trying to, hopefully this conversation helps to maybe highlight people. And if you even just snip this bit and let people see that, okay, there's something else going on here, you'll be helping on a deeper level by supporting your horror creator, because this is actually actively going on, and it's sad. We don't want it to be that way. It's real life. It's happening.
Yeah. One thing to remember is that, and I go back to strength in numbers, right?
How many people are on this slasher app at the moment? Rough.
I could say there are tens of thousands at this point.
Oh yeah.
I'm waiting until I reach certain milestones to actually start divulging in any like real detail. But there are tens of them.
So with a few people, it's not just a little app that hardly anybody's on. Like, there's a significant number.
Yes. Yes. You know, the one thing about strength in numbers is really interesting to me, is that people forget how much power they do have, right? So what would happen if tomorrow every horror creator took their content off of Amazon? What would happen if every author took their book off of Amazon? Amazon needs you just as much as they need their customers. So if they don't have products, they don't have a business. And really let that sink in, because it's true. Without you, without everybody else who has products on their site, because they don't really create anything, they create a few dozen products. Who cares? Without everyone else who has created a product or something that they are selling, they don't exist. So
I keep trying to get the creator of Godless.com to come on this, but we'll keep having scheduling issues.
Yeah.
There's alternatives out there, folks.
He's a good dude. I hope everything is going in the right direction. But I mean, really, like, think about if every horror creator said, you know what, we're not putting our books on there anymore because people who haven't read them are giving them bad reviews, and you go to Godless, you come to Slasher, you do whatever you do, you go where the audience is that you care about. Yeah. So I mean,
that's a plug in it, eh?
and but for wherever it may be, honestly, whether you want to put your film on Shudder or Screambox or wherever it is, YouTube, you know, you have some say in your fate, right?
Yep. Let's just say the minute the certain people hurry up and provide streaming services on their app, so I can stream live there. You know what I'm saying? One or two platforms mightn't be as important. Just putting that out there, you know.
Yeah.
Subtle.
That's a prime example. That is, isn't it? A prime example.
But no, I mean, look.
No, if they don't want you to play in the sandbox, build your own sandbox. Absolutely.
No, that's
why
exactly
I'm saying independent creators.
Yeah.
Come on.
Book section's coming. Books. Yeah. But yeah, no, seriously though, like, if you, and I've said this to people before, because I've had people say that the gold standard is basically having their movie on Prime Video. But Prime Video doesn't pay you anything sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, either you're fueling the fire or you are the fire. You know, you have that choice to make. I don't know why people make the choices they make. I don't know why things are only important if they are important. You know, if you cannot sell anywhere else, then it's important. If you can sell somewhere else, what do you want to do? You have choices, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's the choices that people make. You can't say, and I don't mean you as an author or anyone else or someone as a filmmaker, but in general, a person cannot say, I cannot make money doing what I want to do, and then proceed to give it to the lowest common denominator. You cannot say, I can't make money as an author, and then allow the most people to buy it for the least money. It's unfortunate, but it's a reality that needs to be addressed. You know, if you look at music, for example, people used to be able to make livings as signed musicians that were on record labels, right? You would be able to make money selling your records. When they got played on the radio, you would get these wonderful royalty checks, right? Pandora came along, and Pandora went, you know what? We're going to give music away for free. We're going to have a couple of advertisements. Spotify came along, and all these streaming services came along, and they decided everyone else's fate, because the record labels said, you know what? We'll take a fraction of the amount of money if you will play this content. To what end? To ruin the entire industry? Great, they've succeeded.
They're still
Film is next. Movies are heading in that exact direction right now. So for anybody who's not paying attention, wait. Movies are 100% next on the chopping block because they are following suit of music. And, you know, I don't really know the business of books, but I can't imagine that's any easier.
With books, I use the analogy of, like, especially with horror,
yeah,
you'll never see a horror book in the supermarket aisle or the airport bookshop. There is the example of bland and beigeness, right?
Mm-hmm.
The minute you start seeing horror books in those two places, then you know the censorship of horror isn't a thing. Right. The minute you see the books in those, but you never will.
that it's gone mainstream and has, broken through. Or I mean, Jonah Hill is broken. It right, because obviously you want to sell. You want to sell your books so you can write more books because you like to write books. You enjoy doing that. You like to make movies. People like to have podcasts. They want to be able to do what they'd like to do and make a living at it. There's no reason that they can't. If people are willing to pay for it, why shouldn't you make a living from them? And it's because of simple greed. That's the only answer. Because Amazon is paying people 10 cents per 1,000 pages read on unlimited or something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
Why? Why fuel that? Don't participate. If you don't participate, they can't take advantage. Now, if it's the only channel, understandable. Then there's no alternative. But if there are alternatives, feed them, seek them out, fuel them, because those are the ones that are going to provide you the audience that you're. So one of the analogies I have is I don't go to IMDb to look for a good horror movie, because good horror movies on IMDb, at least the ones that I like, 3 stars on average, right? I don't give a shit what somebody's grandmother in Kansas thought of it, that doesn't like horror movies. She likes romantic comedies. Why would I care about her opinion? It doesn't match anything remotely related to anyone who enjoys the genre. So it's really all about context, I think. And that's why, we've got the movie section, because now you've got better context. You have other horror fans rating horror movies. And like you're talking about your rating system, you want horror fans to rate horror movies, but you also should have some, other opinions for people who are not horror fans too. You even it out by saying, okay, this person is a horror fan, this person is neutral, this person hates horror. Okay, cool. Give it a fighting chance.
But that was my point about the BBFC. You need to have a mixture, and
I agree with you.
You might get someone who's not a horror fan who might think, yeah, that was actually quite good.
Oh yeah, but like horror comedy is the gateway drug. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You want to read a non-horror fan, and you just like, here, this is funny. You like this.
Renfield.
Yeah.
Renfield.
I watched that again yesterday. In fact, I was meant to do a stream last night, and because I'm an old git, I was watching the special features and I fell asleep. I forgot to do a stream. I woke up, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. Oh, what the hell? DVD players in the menu thing. Such a fun movie. But yeah, we can all deal with people not liking stuff. And the whole point of this stream, this conversation, is we need to identify the fact there are bad faith actors out there who are actively trying to destroy the genre, and they're doing it in such a cowardly, sneaky way. It's disgusting. And I think, and it's not just moaning, because that was one of the points that obviously brought it. It's easy to think as a creator, oh, nobody likes me, blah, blah, blah. Oh, the world's against me. It's easy to fall in that rut of self-pity, especially today's culture seems to revel in that. But there is an active agent against horror. I think I was going to share, actually, because I wanted to talk about our own personal, just to wrap up, talk about our own personal experiences of censorship. And then I think
just before you go,
yep,
is Disney Plus. They've got every single tab, like action, adventure, comedy, lovey-dovey. They haven't got a horror tab on there. Now, also on Disney Plus, you can just imagine Aladdin and then suddenly Friday the 13th beside it. But also, just
the Predator and the Alien. Didn't they buy Alien as well?
Yeah, but it's under action. It's under adventure. Predator. They haven't got a horror tab. But Disney Plus, as from October, are putting their prices up 27%.
I wouldn't. Well, that's probably because their earnings call there.
They've
Yesterday
lost
didn't go
11
down too well.
They've lost 11.1 million subscriptions in the past 3 months.
The last quarter, they lost $2.5 billion because of their. I have no interest. Like I said, that
well, they haven't got horror
company,
tap anyway.
I have zero interest in them.
Disney, if you're watching, we
Don't
want a
do horror.
tap.
Go away. Just die already.
You're right, because they do have Haunted Mansion that just came out. Didn't they have the old version too?
Yeah.
That was made. I think Eddie Murphy was in it or something.
Yeah.
God, that was a while back.
They got all the Predators on there. Alien.
They've got Barbarian.
Yeah, but they haven't got a horror tap.
That's a bloody good movie.
Barbarian.
Barbarian, yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
With Hunter Scornford.
Barbaric, isn't it?
Justin Long. Yeah, it was awesome.
No, just before Colin goes on with his thing, the other day I killed my mother-in-law, hitting her over the head.
Go with minus 2.5 hours pun free. Oh dear God.
And then I killed my father-in-law by aiming it over the head with a box of Weetabix. And then I killed my ex-missus by hitting her over the head with a box of Cheerios. And the police said I'm a serial killer.
Give up.
There we go. Just
couldn't hold it in, could you? You just couldn't. Not just one stream. No.
If anybody wants my joke book, it's available on my website, stephensamuelknight.co.uk/buy.
Anyway, you bastard. A thing I was bringing up is one of the things I have done, and this is where I've come across personal censorship, even though not exactly against me directly, but just trying to promote people's works. When I've shared this among these are published works that people have shared with the podcast for the Horrific Tales segment. The amount of times I've had bite back from the community saying these go against our community standards. What the hell is so? Oh, is that not showing?
That's mine.
Yeah. Oh, it's not. I was trying to bring it up full screen there. I wonder if I can zoom in. What is so egregious about this? What is so horrible that social media feels the need to ban it and I have to appeal? Or this? What is so disgusting, horrible, awful about book covers? I have not had something come across my desk that is so vulgar and out there that I even feel like, oh, I don't want to share that. There is nothing here. And I think people as well, when they're talking to artists as well, understand that they have to censor themselves. That they can't go full shock horror, if that makes sense. Even extreme authors. There is nothing here.
I'll tell you what's horrible about that book that you just showed, shall I? That person laying down there is me.
Oh, is that what it is?
It was taken in London, that one. Was it London? No, it was taken in Thailand. I think that one was. And
but
I was laying on the bed. That's what's horror about it.
At least half these titles I've had to fight back because they wouldn't share. And plus, when I put the links and stuff, like in our shop, it doesn't link to anything I own. It links directly to the author, so that's the whole point, is to try and give people a wee bit of a boost. So they click on the link and they go straight to the author's book and buy it, and then all's well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do. The amount of trouble I've had just sharing these. Now, there's nothing. Now, Eric's one might be a wee bit naughty.
There's one.
That's a great book, by the way.
There's one of mine as well. The Killing Under the Blood Red Sky. Down the bottom.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Won't they share it?
No, I've had at least half of these. There's a couple of mine.
Yeah.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I might as well plug as well. You know what I mean? I'm on here too. But there's nothing here so egregious or horrible that hasn't been done in the action genre or anything else. Like, look at the romance stuff.
It
The
was
amount
the
of half
covers they
naked
had problems
pictures.
with. It was just the covers they had problem with.
Yeah, just the covers. Pinterest
What-
is another one.
What part of their community standards did it break?
Oh,
What
they
rule
won't.
did it
Oh, that's the
violate?
thing. They don't. They say it goes against our community. They get this generic
They
bland.
literally what?
You know, it goes against our community standards. So I fight back. You know what I mean? And in the end, there's not one that have upheld. But the initial response, and I think it's because it has the horror tag. Because somewhere in the description it's labeled as a horror book, and the authors, you know what I mean, authors have had trouble individually. I'm just a platform sharing folks who have had the decency to share their work. Especially in the beginners, did a lot more narrative fiction before I started doing live streams, and we've still got more. You know what I mean, it's still ongoing. It just comes in now and again. It's not. Authors still share their stories, and obviously, as a return and a thank you, I try and promote the book as much as possible. That's how you have a reciprocal arrangement, and that's how you support each other. They help my channel by sharing the episodes. I help them. No harm done.
When I've been advertising, sometimes I put an excerpt from the book, and I've been contacted by Facebook saying it's copyright breach. And I've contacted them back and said, "Yeah, but it's my copyright. I own the book, and I own the excerpt that I've put on Facebook. It's my copyright." So now, when I quote something, I have to put underneath Stephen Knight, name of the book, and the year, and it gets through.
To quote yourself,
yeah,
it is madness. MJ, have you had experience? I know you're new to sort of, your first book come out, and you're sort of quite reasonably new to all this here. Have you had experience yet of censorship?
One is like a physical kind of censorship, like how you sort of go around to local libraries and, local places where you could do readings, things like that. And so I contacted a lot of local libraries at first, just like, if you have any events, if you have any opportunities, and every other category, they always say, "Oh, my library's just been so embracing. I've gone down and read my romance to all these people at these book groups." And it's just a stonewall because it's horror, and so I've had emails back, I'm sorry, like we don't really have a horror readership around here. It's sort of like a sleepy kind of, it's a city, but it's very, very small. And yeah, they're just not very interested in horror. It's like, if it was any other genre, then it would be, yeah, we'll get it in. Yeah, we'll put your posters up. Yeah, we'll have you in for readings. But because it's horror, they've outright said to me, there isn't the audience around here. And I don't know if it's the fact that there really isn't the audience around here, because we have 2 universities. We've got, loads of students who are probably massively into horror. Lots of people like me who love horror, but there is the attitude of, no, it's horror, so we just won't have it. And so,
in the evening as well, so I could understand it not being at lunchtime or during when school kids are about. Fair enough, it's grown-up content.
Yeah. So I was thinking, so I changed the tack, and I was like, well, if you have any events around Halloween, then please do let me know, because I'd be more than happy to sort of come in and do the readings. And you just don't hear back. And there's quite a lot of sort of horror sites around here. Like we've got a creepy old castle, that housed the Pendle Witches, if anyone's heard of them. And I contacted them. If you've got anything coming up, please let me know. And you don't hear really. It's a bit of a shame. I just thought with it sort of being local interest, and one of the ghosts in the book is like based around here, so I was like, oh, you might have an interest here. And just I mean, it might have been the same around here if it's a romance book, I don't know, but the sort of outright straight to my face is just, yeah, no, it's horror and we don't like it. So it's unfortunate really, because it would be lovely to just get out there and do some local stuff.
Start a crack of the whip, that's all anyone is asking for. Just give a fair shot, and if people don't like it, that's fair. I mean, you can't fault someone for not liking your work. That's
No, exactly.
by the by. Not going to reach everybody, but just all people
Yeah.
want is a fair shot.
Yeah.
For our statement, sorry, I've just one other example. It's like way at the very beginning, 3 years ago with this podcast. It was during the pandemic, obviously, and I just come back to the UK trying to find my feet, and there was online courses to help people, and I wanted to treat this as a business, you know, get ideas and basically treat it as not just throw money into something, getting back in terms of not wasting how to navigate social media. So I joined this scheme that was for startup businesses, and there was a number of classes and stuff. And the minute I said I was a horror creator, and everyone's doing the oh, woe was me, I hate that. You know, everyone's like trying to help each other with their conditions and problems, and that was a whole big whining session. But I want to start a business and no clear idea. I'm like, okay, I've started. Here's my podcast. Here's what I'm doing here. Here's where I get people on board. Here's my books as well, where if people come aware of me, they might be interested in books. It's twofold thing. Here's my plan. You're a horror creator? Can you not do something else? I mean, that was legitimately the response I got. And I was the only one that actually had first of all, a website set up, a product. I'd actually had presence. I'd all that thing set up, but people are, here's how you post to social media. I'm like, okay, here's my first 100 posts, blah, blah, blah. I'd already got that. Here's my first videos. I was already like 10 steps ahead. So all I wanted to do was refine the process so that it was being as efficient with my time as possible. You're a horror creator? And then in fact, they were promoting people's businesses and they're like, sorry, we can't actually share your work. It's too adult. I'm like, okay, well, thanks for nothing. And then they keep coming back to me, these stupid things. I'm like, don't come near me. You're no interest. And I found them to be less than helpful. In fact, I would have, if I hadn't listened to them, I would have given up. Damon, I'm sure you've got a few things to say about this and personal experiences.
Mara has mentioned to me that her TBM page just got shut down on Facebook. Fuckers.
Mara unfortunately had stuff going on. We were hoping to have her on the stream. You know what I mean? But she was actually someone I was keen to talk to because she actively promotes horror, and that would have been another angle.
Yeah, she's a huge proponent for everybody, and to see something like that, to see
if she's got 5 minutes to jump on,
that.
If she doesn't mind, she's got the links and stuff.
Oh wait, hold on, never mind. You know what? All right. It looked like there might have been a fake profile. I'm just like, what? Because we're having these conversations here, and I'm just like, there's so much censorship going on, and I'm like seeing this. I didn't get to read the whole thing.
Live, so, somebody actually getting censored?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but anyway, I'll figure that out with her. But no, I mean, look, this happens all the time to people, and it's like whenever I see it, I get really, really frustrated and angry because why? There's really just no need for it. Sorry, was there a specific question?
Just give some examples of when you've been personally censored.
Well, me.
Or work you're doing, or like you just give Mara, there was a perfect example. If she had been on, that would have been like live as we speak. Mara's getting censored.
I was really, really mad. Okay, so fortunately, because I understand the nonsense that goes on, and I know how to work around it. So I just do what I have to do to reach the audience. That's really all it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on all those platforms to get the horror fans onto Slasher. I don't use them myself, really. Like, I stay in touch with a few friends on them who aren't, but that's about it. And that is my goal. That is my only purpose for being on any of those platforms, is to do business, to move horror fans from them to Slasher, because those platforms treat us terribly. And if it wasn't for that,
and I fully support that. If it wasn't for this podcast, I wouldn't be on those
Right.
platforms either.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But the fact that they're treating us so terribly, and really they're criticizing us for no good reason. When they and other companies make money from us, so they're perfectly willing to take our money
Mhm.
by monetizing us through ads and and
Encouraging us
selling
to
our
pay for
data.
adverts.
Right, right. And I mean they're more than happy to take money to sell our data, but us as individuals, oh, there's problems with us. Well, then give us our fucking money back and piss off, because it's absolutely absurd that you can talk out of both sides of your mouth at the same time. I don't go for that. It's absolutely like irresponsible. So when it comes to that, I am very, very defensive of the horror community, of horror fans, of horror creators, and it really upsets me to see anybody treated in that way when there's absolutely no reason, you know. And like I said, they're more than happy to make all of you work for them to create more content so that they sell more ads so they can hold you back. But that's just how it goes, and it's unfortunate. Supporting them and make your own destiny. Um, and I know it's difficult, but the more that we separate ourselves from that, I think the better off everybody's going to be. They'll be happy that they don't have to censor all this stuff, that they don't have to moderate the ways that they do. I mean, not like humans are doing it. It's all AI anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they'll have to spend a few pennies less to have an AI, thing look at your stuff and go, nope. But when it really comes down to it, who's benefiting? You guys.
No, 100%. Well, this is part of the conversation. This is highlighting people. There are alternatives. Links in the description.
Thank you. But no, really, it's important for us, if they're going to keep us and push us outside the wall and say, you know what, we don't want you here. Don't be there. Go where people do want you. Come to Slasher. Go, check out Godless. Check out all of the places that are trying to support him, because we want you with us. We care about supporting what you're doing. And if we can grow, we give you more opportunity. Because if we reach 1 million horror fans, what does that mean to you? You've got 1 million opportunities versus how large can you grow your social profiles on Instagram, on Facebook? Thousands, maybe 10,000. Not
my dog's got her own Twitter and Facebook accounts.
Love
And
that.
She's got more followers than me on Twitter.
Well, but that's like, Now, if you're, what would happen if your dog was a horror fan?
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be it. Gone.
Yeah.
Let's see if you can get your dog banned.
Yeah, check her out, Oriole the Stuffy.
Yeah. No, I think on that happy note, we've been going at this near 3 hours. Bloody hell, but it just shows this is a passionate topic, and it's unfortunately people are so reticent to talk about it. I think he's all feel a sense of relief. Just here, let's peel the plaster off and talk about the elephant in the room. I hope he's all got something from it, at least being able to vocalize, and I hope people watching this understand that it's not a made up thing, it's not a whiny thing. It's a legit occurrence. We've demonstrated it. We've shared personal experiences, and most importantly, there are solutions. And
my personal opinion, like I said, my conclusion to it is that the BBFC is out of date, and the whole system needs rebooting. It needs something new there, and it needs to concentrate from all different avenues. There needs to be members from right across the broad stream. And
people don't give up power easily.
No. So
people like power; it's addictive. And it's a sense of a lot of people that are powerless in their own lives. Oh, let's pick on a horror fan. That's all they need to feel worthwhile. It's kind of tragic, but if that's what you feel like you need to do. But you won't win, because horror's been around for centuries, and it'll be around long after your fads and whatever the next thing is to complain about comes along. We'll still be here. And I think that annoys a lot of you, and I make no apologies for that. As a horror fan creator, I make no apologies for being that little irritant in your life. And I make no apologies for my fine friends here, who are wonderful creators as well. Guys, I think
I'll just say about that Mickey Mouse film that was banned.
Yep.
1933. It was The Mad Doctor, it was called. This Mickey Mouse short was banned on its initial release because of its horror atmosphere. So, 1933.
Sad.
So they banned.
Wasn't that when elbows were also banned? And ankles?
But elbows are acceptable now.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Do you know what? It'll never change. I don't think it ever will, and that's fine as long as we understand. And what, like Damon says, okay, then we'll not play your game. We'll build our own sandbox, and we'll do that, and we'll carry on. And you will find someone else to pick on. So be it. But the important thing is that horror fans understand that this is going on. And if you can do something to support your creator that you enjoy, please do it. That's the minimum we can ask from you. Is that if you enjoy somebody's content or creations, support them and be vocal about it. Help them along. That's all you can do. Especially independents, don't parrot their work. Don't use tricks. Just for what you pay for a cup of coffee or a flipping stuff with whipped cream and weird caramel type stuff, you can support a horror creator. It's not hard. Sometimes it's just a click of a button. That's all you can do to help tide this.
Yeah.
Guys, I want to thank you so much for coming on. This has been fantastic. It's been a brilliant conversation. And I seem to have plenty of legs. We'll probably go on for ages, but I think it's a good time so people can get off the channels like, oh, will you ever shut up? But yeah, I'll update links in the description. Check out each of these guys' works. Absolutely fantastic. Go give them support as well as the channel as well. Just plenty coming up. I've been looking forward to doing this episode for a while, and I'm glad we're here. Just last thing to say then, do the typey clicky things. And until next time, keep it creepy. Keep it horrific.